Chapter 189. Since ancient times there has been a saying, medicine and martial arts are inseparable. Fang Yin is a first-rate martial arts master and a third-rate doctor. Who wouldn't be stabbed in the martial arts world? Giving yourself some emergency treatment after being stabbed is the key to saving your life. If you have to crawl to find a doctor after being seriously injured, you won't be able to survive even if you have 9 lives. Even those who sold dog skin plasters in the market shouted that after you hit me, 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 you stick on the plaster. After 3 to 5 minutes, the scars would disappear. A plaster was only 10 yuan, buy 3 get 1 free. The price was reasonable and there was even free shipping included. Because Wang Li was seriously injured, not only her skin was burned, but even her internal organs were also severely weakened due to the invasion of the fire. For so many years, she relied on the expensive medicine provided by the Lu family to maintain her life. Wang Li's body was weak, plus she was seriously injured and lost a lot of blood. After seeing Fang Yin throw Lu Shu downstairs, she directly fainted. Fang Yin took the whole medicine pot from the kitchen, put the medicine into a bowl to cool, then spread out a piece of sterilized gauze, poured the hot medicine dregs into the emery cloth, put the medicine pot in place and carefully wrapped the gauze. Fang Yin personally used a pair of scissors to cut open Wang Li's pants, revealing her charred, pitch-black skin that was too horrible to look at. There were also several fresh wounds which were just cut by Lu Shu's subordinate, Butcher. Lu Chaoga's eyes were red, clenched her fists and didn't say a word. Fang Yin wrapped the gauze with the medicine dregs around the wound on Wang Li's leg. Wang Li's body suddenly twitched, and the upper half of her body bounced up from the bed. Because of the pain in her legs, she also woke up from her unconscious state. Fang Yin firmly pressed her legs, not letting her lower body move. Until Wang Li was able to adapt to the heat and stimulation of the medicine dregs, and when she gradually calmed down, he wrapped her whole long leg again. After tying up one leg, Fang Yin proceeded to tie up her other leg. During this process, Wang Li has been watching Fang Yin's every move with her eyes wide open. He did not speak, nor did he resist. Fang Yin finished the exercise on his legs and turned around to pick up the bowl of warm medicinal soup. He held Wang Li's back with one hand and placed the soup in her hand. He smiled and said, "Drink it." Wang Li took the bowl of medicine and drank the black liquid in one gulp. Fang Yin took the bowl and said with a smile, "Your body is very weak. You need to drink Chinese medicine for at least half a month to recuperate. As for the dregs on your leg, just change them once every 3 days. You don't have to change them too often. Don't worry, they'll get better." Wang Li still did not speak. She only stared unblinkingly at Fang Yin with her murky red eyes. "I understand," Wang Li suddenly said. "What do you understand?" Fang Yin asked with a smile. "Acting," Wang Li said. "You two are acting." "We're not acting." Fang Yin shook his head. Wang Li did not believe Fang Yin's words. She turned around to ask Lu Chaoga. "We're not acting." Lu Chaoga said, "Before he came I didn't tell him that you were still alive." Wang Li's eyes flashed. "You didn't know about my existence before?" "I didn't know." "You didn't know about my cooperation with the Lu family?" "I didn't know at all," Fang Yin answered with absolute certainty. Wang Li wanted to say something but stopped. She did not ask this question in the end. "You want to ask if I'm angry, right?" Fang Yin took the initiative to ask the question in Wang Li's heart. "Yes," Wang Li said. "I know you. I know you're close to Lu Chaoga. I also know you've helped her a lot. She hid my existence from you and hid my cooperation with the Lu family. I think you must be very angry, right?" "Of course I'm angry," Fang Yin said very frankly. "To tell you the truth, the moment I entered the study and saw you and Lu Shu, I felt like my heart was stabbed by a knife. I felt that I was betrayed by Lu Chaoga. I helped her with all my heart, helped her find the enemy who killed her father, helped her get back her property, helped her protect her. But she still hid such important information from me. What did she think I was? A handsome bodyguard? A cold-blooded thug who automatically appears when there's danger? Later I thought that everyone has their own secrets that they don't want to tell others. She didn't tell me about your existence, which means she hasn't regarded me as her closest friend. She doesn't trust me as much as I trust her. Or maybe she has her own difficulties. We always hope that the interaction between people is equal. I give my sincerity and you return my sincerity. I give my feelings and you return my feelings. I give everything and you do everything for me. This is unreal in life and it's very difficult to do. You love her and she loves you. This is a match made in heaven. Most of the time you love her and she loves him, but he doesn't love her. I feel hurt and cheated because I put her in a very important position. She doesn't trust me and she hides things from me, which only proves that I'm not that important to her. This is a test. She didn't wholeheartedly and I performed perfectly unilaterally. Fang Yin said with a smile. What she did to me I will do to her. So, from now on we are just ordinary friends. If we redefine our relationship in this way, my heart will feel much better, and those secrets and betrayals will have no meaning. Because no one will expose all their secrets to an ordinary friend. Not to mention this kind of privacy that concerns the lives of oneself and those close to you. Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoge and said, I understand everything you did, but from my personal standpoint, I can't accept it. Lu Chaoge's lips moved slightly, but she only let out a soft sigh. She didn't explain. They were both smart people and they always had a tacit understanding. She didn't even say hello. After he came he took a look and then played the show with her. She understood what he was thinking and he also understood what kind of person he was. Seeing Lu Chaoge's sad and guilty expression, Wang Li, who knew her very well, said softly, Before, Lu Chaoge didn't know that I was alive, because I didn't dare to contact her. I knew that she was closely monitored. If I rashly contacted her, both of us would be in danger. It's not easy for everyone to live. It's not easy for me and it's even more difficult for Lu Chaoge who lives in the Jiang family. Have you ever thought that Lu Chaoge didn't tell you about my existence and didn't confess to you the secret of my cooperation with the Lu family was actually just because she didn't want you to have a bad impression of her? Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoge in surprise, but Lu Chaoge slightly turned her face and refused to look at Fang Yin's eyes. Lu Chaoge didn't approve of my cooperation with the Lu family. After she knew the truth she kept persuading me. I think you know her about this, Wang Li said. To be honest, you two cooperated so well that even I was deceived at that time. I even blamed Lu Chaoge for transferring such a huge sum of money to your account. Because I never thought that you were a trustworthy person. We two poor women depended on each other for survival. If we were not careful we would be swallowed by those schemers. They're capable of anything. The accident of Lu Chaoge's parents and my face are the best examples. Until just now, I was still wondering why Lu Chaoge told all our secrets to you. If we were not careful, we would die without a burial place. Because if she didn't tell you about my existence and my cooperation with the Lu family, how could you have such a wonderful cooperation? Wang Li's lips were chapped, and because she talked too much, her face became more embarrassed. Lu Chaoge went to pour a glass of water for her and said, Have a rest. Wang Li drank the water but refused to lie down immediately. She looked at Fang Yin and said, You are right, everyone wants the same value in return for their efforts. This time it was Lu Chaoge who felt guilty about you and it was I who felt guilty about you. We were not as frank as you and we were too insidious and suspicious. To be honest, until now, I dare not trust you like Lu Chaoge. However, Lu Xiaoge has already given you the greatest amount of trust she can give you. She asked the Lu family to transfer the money to your account, asking you to protect her, and also because she has complete trust in you. Because that is the money to save my life and it is all we have now. She entrusted her everything to you, isn't that also a kind of trust? Fang Yin was silent and said, What you said makes me feel more pressure, because I have decided to treat her as a normal friend. Then let's just be friends, Lu Xiaoge said. Aren't you afraid that I will refuse to transfer the money? Fang Yin asked. If you didn't help, that money and our lives might have been gone. Lu Chaoge said without any worry, It is only a matter of time. For the situation at that time, I made the best choice. As for the future, do I have the right to think about the future? Fang Yin, you are a variable, Wang Li said. Whether it is the Jiang family, the Lu family, or me, we have never thought that because of your appearance, things will be pushed to the situation that is most beneficial to us. So what if the Lu family took the contract? The day they join the dragon group will be the day they sink into the mire. Wang Li became more and more emotional and her voice was dry and hoarse as she said, When two tigers fight, one will be hurt. Fang Yin, thank you for avenging us. Wang Li fell asleep. When the two came out, Lu Chaoge gently closed the door. No matter what, I owe you an apology. Lu Chaoge said. I will not say it is okay. Fang Yin said. Chapter 190. What? Fang Yin jumped up from his chair in surprise. This news was too shocking. It was so shocking that even a calm man like him could not remain calm. I just found out about this secret from my aunt, Lu Chaoge said calmly. She was always so cold and emotionless as if she didn't care much about anything. This was the personality that was formed by his life as a spy in the Jiang family, and it would not change in a short period of time. He might never be able to change it. I was also surprised to hear about this. I tried my best to find out the truth of that incident. Everyone I met told me that the Rubik's Cube research had reached a bottleneck and was temporarily put on hold. I didn't expect it to be solved. My dad passed all the information and technology to my aunt. She has always kept this secret. If the Jiang and Lu families knew about this, what would they think? Fang Yin asked maliciously. That's their business, Lu Chaoga said. I think they must be very unhappy. What are you going to do? You should know that if there is really no problem with the technology, it will bring about a revolution in this world. The benefits are too big. I know, Lu Chaoga said. This is the reason why I gave up on Longtu Group. I want to build it with my own hands and use the 1 billion as the startup capital. You want to start your own energy company? Fang Yin asked in surprise. Just us? Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoga in confusion, then suddenly understood and said, You want me to join you? You don't have to join me, but I want to give you what you deserve. Because of guilt. To repay a favor. Fang Yin was silent. I am not a person who takes advantage of the situation. It is not easy for you two women to live now. But you will accept it. Is that right? Lu Xiaoga said, because you won't miss any opportunity to change the world. In this world, there is only 1.5 people I can trust. Lu Xiaoga said, one is auntie, the other half is you. I'm sorry we haven't known each other for long. I know you've helped me a lot and I know you've saved my life. And not just once. This is because I'm too sensitive and paranoid. It has nothing to do with your character. That's because there's a problem with your character. I don't deny it. Lu Xiaoga nodded. I'll try to change, but I might not be able to. I'll try my best. You just acquired Rosefinch Secondary, and now you're going to start an energy company. Can you handle it? Everything is difficult at the beginning. The energy company has just been established, so it will take a lot of time. So, I will give up my position with Rosefinch. I don't think I'm qualified enough to take over your position. If there are some jobs that I can't do well, I hope you won't mind. Fang Yin said sincerely. Lu Xiaoga looked at Fang Yin deeply and said, I will appoint you as the leader of the language team for the first years, and nominate you as the school's director. I'm not going to be the principal? The principal is Zhang Xiaofeng. He's quite capable, but he's too tactful. I'll have a good talk with him when I leave. He will fully support your new teaching practice. Fang Yin nodded and said, It seems that you've considered everything. There's nothing I'm not satisfied with. I'll just be the language teacher of class 9. You know better than anyone that my personality is not suitable to be an official. This is not what I'm after. No problem. Lu Xiaoga accepted Fang Yan's proposal. The two of us are still too weak in the company. We need to bring in a partner with a strong background. At least, we don't have to worry about the company being crushed by the Jiang and Lu families when it's still young and weak. You have to know that in this world, it's not just talent and technology that can lead to success. Lu Xiaoga nodded and said, I have a candidate to recommend. In the vice principal's office, Lu Xiaoga and Qin Yitian sat opposite each other. After Qin Yitian finished reading the information in his hand, he casually threw it on the coffee table and asked, Where's Fang Yan? He's going to class. Lu Xiaoga said. I think it's better for the two of us to talk alone. Why me? Qin Yitian asked. I think you're the most suitable candidate. Qin Yitian smiled and said, Principal Lu trusts me very much. So what's your opinion? Lu Xiaoga asked. I have to say that the Rubik's Cube technology has a very promising market. If this technology is really as amazing as what's written in the information, you can make money with your eyes closed. If our family gets this kind of Rubik's Cube, it's absolutely impossible to cooperate with others. Of course, you choose to cooperate with us, certainly not because you want us to share the cost or let us make money together. Are you worried that someone will take advantage of it? Or someone has already done so? You just need a guarantee? You're very smart. Lu Xiaoga didn't deny it. This is very fair, I have no reason to refuse. Qin Yitian said. She stood up and walked to Lu Xiaoga's desk. She took a pencil from the pen holder and then wrote a row of beautiful numbers on the white paper on the desk. Call this number. Someone wants to see you. She threw the pencil on the desk and said, I'm going to class. I actually don't want to skip Mr. Fang's class. After that, she opened the office door and walked out. Lu Xiaoga looked at her elegant and agile figure, and her eyes showed a little envy. Beautiful, smart, and with a powerful background, such a girl, how blessed by God. With every step the man took, the wooden clogs would knock on the smooth marble floor of the airport, making a clear and pleasant sound. He wore a long leather shawl, a white Taoist robe and wooden clogs. This unique style of dress let people know at a glance that he came from Japan. Cold, thin, like a flaming bird in the desert, bathing in the scorching sun, a sand-eating eagle. It was obvious that it was extraordinary. It was easy to overlook his looks because his temperament was too outstanding. Behind the man there were two beautiful children. The girl was gentle and lively with a very amiable smile on her face. The boy and the girl were diametrically opposite, with a serious expression, as if they had a grudge against everyone. Behind them there were several strange people following. Those who didn't know better would think that they were some art performance group from Japan. Everyone they met would point at them, and some people wanted to take out their mobile phones to take pictures. However, when they adjusted the angle of their mobile phones, they found that the clicking sound was very far away from them. This made them puzzled. They didn't notice that they were walking very fast. Why couldn't they catch up? However, no one wanted to turn around and chase after them, because they always felt that there was something blocking their footsteps and their determination. They're here again. Chiba Kaori stood outside the airport gate and said with a smile, "I didn't expect it to be so fast." Chiba Haomu snorted, very dissatisfied with Chiba Kaori's behavior. Chiba Kaori smiled and reached out to touch her brother's hair, but Chiba Haomu dodged her. "I know you didn't want to come. But since father made this decision, then, he must be doing it for your own good. Don't you think so?" After a pause the girl said happily, "Besides, I like Wuxia very much. This is a very mysterious country. Before coming here, I never thought that I would meet so many outstanding people. Chinikin, how could there be such an outstanding girl? As a girl myself, I was also impressed by her aura. This is a hypocritical country. Every single one of them was very hypocritical. They are full of hostility toward us." Chiba Haomu finally couldn't help but lose his temper. "I really don't understand. Why did we come back? Is it just to witness my humiliation again?" Thought. The sound of wooden clogs suddenly stopped. The sun was shining brightly in the sky. He raised his head and let the sunlight shine on his face. He squinted his eyes and gave off a lazy and comfortable feeling. What was even stranger was that his pale face seemed to be strangely transparent. Even the tiny blood vessels could be seen clearly. "No matter where you go, you must love the land beneath your feet," the man said softly, but his words were heard by everyone behind him. "Our strength comes from the sun, from the land, and from ourselves. You repel the sun and the sun repel you. You don't love the land and the land doesn't love you. How can you defeat the enemies who have the right time, place, and people to rely on yourself? How can you defeat the enemies who are supported by the sun and the land? If your heart is warm and peaceful, then every swing of your sword will also be warm and peaceful. You love everything around you. Every time you swing your sword, the wind will help you, the rain will help you, the sun and the leaves will help you. A true swordsman needs to become one with the sword. And when you become one with the sword, you also need to become one with nature. That way you will have an aura, and the sword you swing will have an aura. What is the way of the sword? Everything is the way, and the way includes everything." The man turned to look at Chiba Haomu, then at his son, and said, "The sun and rain, the land and everyone you meet, are all the way of the sword." Chiba Haomu was the inheritor and promoter of the one blade of the North Star. He was the #1 swordsman in Japan, known as the Light of the North Star. Chapter 191. Lu Chaoga went to Yanjing and went to Rosefinch's principal, Zhang Xiaofeng's office. "Are you really leaving?" Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Lu Xiaoga, who was sitting across from him, and asked in a very emotional voice. "I'm really leaving," Lu Xiaoga replied. "What a pity," Zhang Xiaofeng said. "You have the ideas and the ability. You've returned with honor and pride. However, you still don't understand the situation in Wuxia. There are some things that you know are right and I also know are right. However, it doesn't mean that this can be done. What everyone thinks is right may not be carried out. Only when everyone thinks it's right will there be a chance. It's a right word and a good word. At first glance there's really no difference. However, if you think about it carefully, you'll realize that there's a lot more to it. You have ideals and ambitions, so you choose to do the right thing. I'm the principal, I'm old, my ideals are gone, and I have to consider the big picture, so I choose to do the right thing. Therefore, during your time at Rosefinch, I didn't give you much support. They would even pour a bucket of cold water on you from time to time, trying to wake you up and let you know whose territory this is. You see, us old men can't get rid of the landlord's consciousness of occupying a mountain and making ourselves the king." "Principal Zhang, you're exaggerating," Lu Chaoga comforted. "Principal Zhang is a good teacher and helpful friend. I've benefited a lot. To be honest, when I heard that you accepted Rosefinch, I was ready to retire. When you walked into my office just now, I was still thinking. Little Lou is here to have a showdown with me. I've already prepared to leave, but I didn't expect that the one leaving is you. Where are you going? Zhang Xiaofeng smiled helplessly. I like students and I like education. Lu Chaoga said, I want to change too many things and my ability is limited, so I hope that my students can stand on the same side as me in the future. However, I have more important things to do now. So, I'll have to trouble Principal Zhang in the future. Zhang Xiaofeng waved his hand and said, What trouble? It's my job. I just want to know what Principal Lu thinks of Rosefinch. What path do you want Rosefinch to take in the future? Teacher Fang Yen will talk to Principal Zhang about this, Lu Chaoga said. Mr. Fang Yen is still the homeroom teacher of Class 9. He also represents me as the school's director. Oh. Zhang Xiaofeng nodded. He thought to himself, the rumors are true, these two people really have something going on. Fang Yen was really good at management. He had only been in Rosefinch for less than half a year, but he had already become the true controller behind Rosefinch. However, what was the attitude of the Qin clan's young lady? At such a young age he was already giving off such great pressure. He was not someone who was easy to deal with. Although Mr. Fang Yen is young, and his personality is a bit flamboyant, his understanding of education and love for students are the model teachers. I think if he has Principal Zhang's support and protection, he will definitely be able to achieve extraordinary results. Because of Fang Yen, our Rosefinch will never lose its reputation as a famous school, Lu Chaoga said. I understand, Zhang Xiaofeng agreed straightforwardly. Since he was paid to do things for others. Since Lu Chaoga, the big boss, wanted him to cooperate with her little lover, Fang Yen, to promote the teaching reform, then he would follow suit. Anyway, the person who was really doing the work was Fang Yen himself. Moreover, Zhang Xiaofeng had a certain understanding of Fang Yen. Although the bet between him and Mr. Zhang Yu was a bit childish, he had used actual results to prove to the whole of Rosefinch that he, Fang Yen, was fully deserving of being a famous teacher in Rosefinch. Mr. Fang Yen is a very young and outstanding teacher. I am happy to protect such a young person. I believe that our cooperation will be very pleasant, Zhang Xiaofeng said. Thank you, Principal Zhang, Lu Chaoga said. Haha, what's so hard about it? The ones who are really working hard are Fang Yen and the other young teachers who are really working on the front lines. Lu Chaoga stood up and said goodbye. Before she left, she couldn't help but remind him, if Mr. Fang Yen really does something that Principal Zhang can't accept, you can call me, because I know he's not easy to convince. Definitely. Zhang Xiaofeng stood up to send her off. He thought that Lu Chaoga really cared for her little boyfriend from the bottom of her heart. This was true love. The wind is bleak and the water is cold. Once a hero leaves, he will not return. Jing Ke knew that he would die, so why did he still go to assassinate the king of Qin? Fang Yen stood on the podium and asked with a smile. Because Jing Ke is a hero. He doesn't want Qin to invade Yen. Because he wants to repay Prince Dan's kindness. In ancient times, people cared about friendship the most. Crown Prince Dan spent 1,000 gold to buy a horse's bones. He told the world that he treats Jing Ke as a scholar of the nation. If Jing Ke didn't go, he would be laughed at by the world. Everyone forced him to go, so he had no choice but to go. The students all had their own ideas and were very enthusiastic in answering the questions. Lively. Arguing. Thinking. This was the characteristic of Fang Yan's class. As long as he was there would be no awkward silence. As long as it was his language class, all the students would put in 120% of their effort to understand the local customs and the story behind the events in the text. Fang Yen rarely interrupted their train of thought. He liked to see them understand the deeper meaning of the text in the process of arguing. In fact, being an outstanding teacher was really not a particularly difficult thing. Before Fang Yen could comment on the student's point of view, Dean Li Mingqiang was already standing at the door of Fang Yan's classroom. Fang Yen let the students continue to argue. He walked out of the classroom and asked Li Mingqiang, Dean Li, are you looking for me? Ah, Mr. Fang, are you busy? I can hear the students' voices in the classroom from afar. In my opinion, Mr. Fang's class is the most lively class in the whole of Rosefinch. Li Mingqiang said flatteringly. Ever since he changed schools and joined Lu Chaoga, he and Fang Yen had become grasshoppers in the same boat. This was Li Mingqiang's real thought at the beginning. He used to be Zheng Tiancheng's man, the school director, and lived a comfortable life. Later, his son was immature and fell out with Director Zheng's son. What was worse, Li Yang also handed over the evidence of Zheng Guodong's crimes to Fang Yen. Li Mingqiang knew that he was about to face a disaster, so he hurriedly ran to hug Lu Chaoga's thigh. At that time he just held the attitude of treating a dead horse as a living one, thinking that he could avoid it as long as possible. He did not expect that things would take a 180-degree turn. Director Jing Tiancheng did not retaliate against him and almost completely treated him as an invisible person. And his position in the school was still as stable as Mount Tai. What surprised and excited him the most was that his new thigh bought the shares of Rosefinch from his former thigh. He became a direct descendant of the royalists again. He felt that he must have done a lot of good things in his previous life. If it was not the Black Cat Sheriff, then it was Ultraman. Otherwise, why would God be so kind to him? With this thought he respected Lu Chaoga even more. Because Lu Chaoga was too cold and always gave people the feeling that she was 1,000 miles away, he targeted Lu Chaoga's cohabiting partner, Fang Yan. Yes, he saw with his own eyes that Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga lived together. As for Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, who lived in that small courtyard at the same time, he automatically ignored them. If I didn't know it was the truth, I would really think that Director Li was complimenting me, Fang Yan said with a smile. Li Mingqiang laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He pointed at Fang Yan and said, your mouth is really unforgiving. It's like this, I just passed by the principal and he asked me to give you a student. As he spoke, he turned around and waved at the girl behind him saying, Mr. Fang should be familiar with this student, right? Chiba Kaori? Fang Yan looked at the beautiful girl standing behind Li Mingqiang in surprise and said, why is she back? Our school and Warren High School have a student exchange program every year. Originally, we exchanged students in July, but Warren High School proposed to send another outstanding student to study in Rosefinch. Haha, this is the pride of our Rosefinch, Li Mingqiang said with a proud face. Chiba Kaori is one of the most outstanding students in Warren, and she came to Rosefinch on behalf of Warren High School. I remember that the last inspection group was received by your class 9. Mr. Fang should have some impression of Chiba Kaori, right? She left a deep impression, Fang Yan said. Really? That's great. Li Mingqiang looked at Fang Yan with a strange expression. According to the agreement between the two schools, Chiba Kaori was supposed to study in the first class, but she took the initiative to ask to study in the 9th class that Mr. Fang is in. From this, it can be seen that during the last reception, Mr. Fang Yan had already attracted and conquered Chiba Kaori with his profound knowledge and handsome appearance. That's why she came all the way to Rosefinch to learn from Mr. Fang Yan. Mr. Huaxia and the Japanese girl, this is a wonderful story. Fang Yan was speechless. Why did Mr. Huaxia and the Japanese girl sound like some hot-blooded and exciting short movies with mosaics on the important parts? Chapter 192. After Li Mingqiang left, Fang Yan stood on the podium. He tapped the table with an eraser. After the students in class 9 quieted down, Fang Yan smiled and said, let me introduce a new student to you. Chiba Kaori from Warren Senior High School. Seeing Fang Yan's gesture of invitation, Chiba Kaori walked in from outside the classroom. Since she had just officially enrolled today, she had yet to receive her Rosefinch uniform. She was still wearing the casual clothes that she had brought with her. She was wearing a light gray long skirt, a white long-sleeved shirt and a beige knitted coat. She wore blue canvas shoes, and the sleeves of her shirt were rolled up to her arms. Overall, she gave off a fresh and sweet vibe. With a gentle smile, she stood under the podium and bowed in front of the students. This was a common East Asian etiquette. I think everyone is familiar with Chiba Kaori, right? A while ago, she came to Rosefinch with the delegation from Warren Senior High School. The exquisite tea ceremony she displayed during the tea duel with Qin Tian was amazing. In the end, she took the initiative to admit defeat to Qin Tian, which showed us that she is an honest and open-minded girl. Fang Yan pretended to glance at Chiba Kaori casually and said, just now, Director Li mentioned that Chiba Kaori was supposed to study in class 1. But because I'm in class 9, she specially applied to the school, hoping that she could study in class 9. To be honest, I feel honored, but I'm also a little scared. Why did Chiba Kaori choose my class? I'm sure it's not just because I'm handsome. More importantly, she thinks I'm a good teacher. She hopes to learn enough from me and understand the essence of Wuxia culture. The sea of books is endless and learning is endless. I'm excellent, but I'm not the best. I know a lot, but there's still a lot I don't know. So, from today onward, I'm a teacher and a student. I want to learn and grow with you. I want you to have no regrets about your choices. I want you to be proud to have a teacher like me. Fang Yan applauded first and said, let's welcome Chiba Kaori with a warm round of applause. Pa pa pa. The applause was resounding. For the sake of welcoming Chiba Kaoru, and also for Fang Yan's touching confession. Fang Yan gestured for Chiba Kaori to stand on the podium and said in English, "Chiba Kaori, do you have anything to say to your classmates?" Fang Yan had been speaking in Wuxia language earlier, so Chiba Sun couldn't understand him. Now that Fang Yan was speaking in English, it was easy for her to understand. Her foundation in English was pretty good. She nodded and bowed to the students below the stage again. She looked gentle and cute as she said with a smile, "I'm Chiba Kaori. Nice to meet you all." Walala. The students applauded again. "Chiba Kaori, we're honored to meet you as well. Chiba Kaori, you're so beautiful. Chiba Kaori, let me teach you the Wuxia language. My Wuxia language has passed the 8th level." Chiba Kaori smiled sweetly and let her classmates joke around with her. She couldn't understand them anyway. When the classroom quieted down again, Chiba Kaori looked at Chini Tian, who was sitting in the last row of the classroom, and said with a smile, "The reason why I came to Wuxia and Rosefinch again is because I lost to Chini Tian in the tea contest. He's an expert in the tea ceremony that I lost to. During my days in Japan, I've been thinking about this question. How can there be such a girl in this world? I thought, I must come here, I must come here. I want to be her opponent, but I also want to be her friend." She looked at Chini Tian with a burning gaze and said, "Chini Tian, I'm here. I'm here for you." Silence. The classroom was dead silent. Everyone's eyes were on Fang Yan, but Fang Yan didn't know where to look. A slap in the face. This girl was slapping him in the face. Fang Yan just said in front of the whole class that Chiba Kaori was here for him, and that he would study hard and make progress every day so that Chiba Kaori wouldn't be disappointed in him. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Chiba Kaori said that she was here for Chini Tian, to be her opponent and to be her friend. Have you ever thought about Mr. Fang's feelings? Chiba Kaori looked at Fang Yan blankly, and then looked at the students sitting below the stage. Shouldn't there be applause? Someone couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Then the whole class roared with laughter. "What are you laughing at?" Fang Yan flew into a rage and shouted, "We're in class. Be serious, everyone." Everyone laughed even more happily after Fang Yan's outburst. Fang Yan couldn't help but laugh as well. He said, "Chiba Kaori doesn't understand Wuxia language, so it'll be hard for her to study in the future. Which student is willing to?" Before Fang Yan could finish, a student shouted, "I'm willing." Me too, me too. Chiba Kaori, let's sit together." Seeing the boy's enthusiastic response, Fang Yan sneered and said, "Chiba Kaori, you sit with Chini Tian. Oh Xiaolong, you sit with Wang Dong." Just now those boys were the most unbridled laughing. Now Fang Yan wouldn't let them get what they wanted. Chiba Kaori laughed, while Chini Tian's desk mate Ho Xiaolong cried. Tianyi Hotel. When Fang Yan rushed over, the private room was already full of people. Zhang Xiaofeng waved his hand and said with a smile, "Mr. Fang Yan, we've been waiting for you." Fang Yan apologized profusely and said, "I'm sorry to have made all the leaders wait." Fang Yan was right. All the people present were the leaders of Rosefinch High School. The school president, Lu Chaoga, the principal, Zhang Xiaofeng, a few vice principals, and the dean of academic affairs, Li Mingqiang. This means that Mr. Fang Yan is working hard and didn't skip work early, right? Li Mingqiang took advantage of his closer relationship with Fang Yan, so he stood up and led Fang Yan to sit on his left. Sitting on his right was the dean of academic affairs, Zhu Jian. He knew that Zhu Jian and Fang Yan were close, so he called Zhu Jian over. Fang Yan greeted Zhu Jian and said with a smile, "I'm late. I'll pour wine for all of you as an apology later." Mr. Fang Yan, that's not right. Our main target tonight is Chairman Lu. Don't make a mistake and attack the wrong person, Zhang Xiaofeng said with a serious face. That's right. Chairman Lu is going out to do big things, and you have to stay and continue to serve our Rosefinch. Our relationship will be closer. The only female vice principal, Huang Mi, winked at Fang Yan. A woman in her 40s was also charming. Then let's assign tasks. Mr. Fang Yan is the youngest in the room, so he should be the best drinker. Tonight, he will accompany Chairman Lu to drink. What do you think? Zhang Xiaofeng said. If Chairman Lu doesn't drink well, then it's Mr. Fang Yan's dereliction of duty. Everyone agreed. Obviously, they had heard of the scandal between Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga and were still trying to prove it. Fang Yan and Lu Xiaoga looked into each other's eyes. Before the others noticed, they quickly looked away. Today's dinner was to send Lu Chaoga off, but the scene was unusually lively, as if they were welcoming Lu Chaoga to take up her duties. It couldn't be helped. Who asked Lu Chaoga to buy Zheng Tiancheng's shares and become the biggest shareholder of Rosefinch? After the dinner, under everyone's strange gaze, the youngest teacher, Fang Yan, naturally sent Lu Chaoga back. Because her subordinates were too enthusiastic, Lu Chaoga drank quite a bit tonight. Her cheeks were slightly red, and she looked more approachable than usual. Fang Yin and Lu Chaoga both drank so they couldn't drive. They walked side by side to school. Fang Yin returned to the courtyard that Lu Chaoga lent him, and Lu Chaoga returned to her own courtyard. The bright moon hung in the sky, and the night breeze blew gently. The familiar tree-lined path, the bank of the Sparrow River that emitted the fragrance of seaweed, the student couples sneakily dating, and the artsy boys playing the guitar and singing on the grass on the Sparrow Bridge. It was a relaxing and cozy night. Lu Chaoga pointed to a dark corner not far from the basketball court and said, "That night, Jiang Zhulu sent me to the school gate. I thought that he was following me, so I created the illusion that we were close. I wanted him to misunderstand, to make him jealous, and to let him know that not everything is absolute. I'm not the woman he set his eyes on, and I'm not the Jiang family's puppet." Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoga with a puzzled expression and said, "You're talking about this now? What are you trying to do?" Lu Xiaoga let out a faint smile and said, "Explain. I want you to understand even more clearly what a scheming woman I am." "And if you see it clearly?" Fang Yin asked. "So what? After you see it clearly, you'll cooperate with me and get along with me with your guard up, just like you are now. You're still trying to lie to me?" Fang Yin widened his eyes and asked with a vigilant expression. Lu Chaoga shook her head. "I just want you to be on your guard at all times, against me and against other women like me. You're a good person and good people should be rewarded." Fang Yin hated being praised as a good person the most. The new company's office space has already been selected. We've acquired a small energy company, and we're going to expand on its original foundation. This will save a lot of preparation time. I'll hold 55% of the new company's shares, and my partner will hold 30%. The other 15% will be transferred to your name. This is a joint decision between me and my partner, and I hope you won't decline. Chaoyan Energy Technology Company. Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yin and said, "I hope you like this name. It's okay if you don't like it since it's already registered anyway." Chapter 193. The irises outside the window were in full bloom. The purple-blue petals were like beautiful butterflies. The wind blew, the petals rose and fell, and the butterflies spread their wings. This was a row of luxurious villas, which was also the Lu family's private sanatorium. The door of the sanatorium opened and a black Bentley slowly drove in. A group of people stood at the door of the villa, waiting. The man in the lead had thick eyebrows, big eyes, a wide mouth, thick lips, and a square face. His hair was combed back like an artist's and he looked very dignified. He was the head of the Lu family, Lu Yin. People called him the Butcher of Shanghai. The Lu family was an old aristocratic family in Huaqing. They had deep connections in many industries. They were one of the richest families in Huaqing. The Lu family had produced outstanding people. Generations of Lu family members worked hard, which was why they had their current prestige. The Bentley had just stopped at the door of the villa. Lu Yin's brother, Lu Qingtian, had already stepped forward and helped Lu Yin open the back seat of the Bentley. Lu Yin glanced at his brother, Lu Qingtian, and nodded slightly without saying anything. In the back seat of the Bentley sat an unremarkable man. He got out of the car and said with a smile, "I'm here to see Lu Shu. Uncle Lu, you're treating me like an outsider by making such a big scene." Lu Yin reached out and shook the man's hand. He said with a smile, "Usually I can't even wait for you to come. Now that I'm here, I have to treat you to a meal and a cup of tea." "Since Uncle Lu says so, I'll stay in Huaqing and not leave," the man said with a smile. "That's great. I'll host banquets every day. We won't go home until we're drunk," Lu Yin said heroically. Jiang Junling nodded with a smile and asked, "Is Lu Shu okay?" "Yes," Lu Yin said with a smile, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. "He won't die." "I'll go in and see," Jiang Junling said. In a spacious and luxurious room, the General Ling saw the willow tree that was rumored to be dead. Lu Shu's entire head was wrapped in gauze. Only his eyes, mouth, and nose had small holes. His upper body was bare, and his sturdy chest muscles were also full of scars and were covered in white gauze of various sizes. There were also a few places with serious injuries that were wrapped in large pieces of gauze. From the outside, one could still see the reddish-brown blood that had already seeped out. What was even more shocking was that his hands and feet were all wrapped in a special steel instrument. The instrument was lit with a yellow light, emitting a warm halo. It gave people the feeling of an incomplete Iron Man hearing the sound of the door being pushed open. The willow tree opened its eyes. Seeing Jiang Junling coming in, Lu Shu smiled. Yes, from his eyes and the change in the corners of his mouth, it was clear that he was smiling. He didn't have the demeanor and despair of a seriously injured person. Instead, he had an abnormal liveliness and cheerfulness. "I don't want to see anyone right now," said the willow tree. "They understood how I was feeling at the moment, so they helped me reject a lot of visitors. But now that you're here, it must be very difficult for them, right?" Jiang Junling walked over and reached out to knock on the steel box on Lu Shu's leg. He asked, "Are you going to become Superman to save the world?" Lu Shu smiled again and said, "If I were Superman, I would definitely destroy the world." "How unfortunate." Jiang Junling smiled. "I live in the same world as you." These iron boxes were shipped from Germany. It is said that they have a magical healing effect on my recovery. Oh, I forgot to tell you, my leg and hand bones are all broken. It is impossible to fully recover. Fortunately, I am Lu Shu, and it happens that the Lu family is not short of money. Now, for the sake of the money, let's see how much they can help me recover. "What about your face?" asked Jiang Junling. "When you just came in, I was worried that you would ask this question." Lu Shu said, "Since I woke up, I haven't looked in the mirror until now. This was impossible before. The first thing I did when I got up in the morning was to look in the mirror. Actually, I don't need to look in the mirror to know how serious the injury is. Because when he grabbed those pieces of paper and threw them at me, I hadn't fainted yet. Those pieces of paper, every one of them was a knife. This face, I'm afraid, is completely ruined." "If it is really ruined, will the title of Huaqing's public lover be handed over to someone else?" Jiang Junling said without hesitation. "If Huaqing chooses another 4 clowns of Huaqing, I will definitely be on the list again." "And I will be the top of the 4 clowns," Lu Shu said in a gloomy voice. After a pause, Lu Shu said viciously, "I want to kill him." Lu Chaoge resigned from the school, pulled the Qin family into the partnership, and founded Chaoyan Energy Technology Company. Their core technology is the Rubik's Cube. "The real, perfect and flawless Rubik's Cube technology," said Jiang Junling with a smile. "Who are you guys working for?" "I already know about this," Lu Shu said. "The Lu family has become a laughing stock. You don't have to specially come over to mock us. Only when you know shame can you be brave," Jiang Junling said with a smile. He patted the steel box on Lu Shu's body and said, "May they bless you." After saying that, he turned around and left. Air Force One. Fang Yin once again sat in the high-altitude restaurant of this hotel. Looking at the mighty Qingjiang not far away, his heart was filled with emotions. Not long ago there was a murder case here. An innocent and kind little security guard with 2 warm dimples when he smiled was knocked down and killed. The sorrow had not gone far, and the sound of crying could still be heard, but the little security guard had already been forgotten. His body was cremated and his blood was washed away. Other than the throbbing pain in the chest of his loved ones, too much evidence of his existence in this world had been erased. May he rest in peace. The rolling Yangtze River flows east, the waves wash away all heroes, Fang Yin muttered to himself. Even heroes will be eliminated, let alone a little security guard. "Mr. Fang, what are you lamenting about?" After Zhu Jian ordered, he walked to Fang Yan's side and stood still. Looking at the night view of Huaqing outside the window, he said, "Looking at the prices on the menu, I feel that the prices are really not worth it. But standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looking at the whole of Huaqing under your eyes, I feel a sense of heroism like a serf who has turned over a new leaf. I also feel that there's a reason why the restaurant is expensive." Fang Yin turned around and said to Zhu Jian in a reproachful tone, "We're not strangers. You don't know me, do you think I don't know you? There are at least 80 if not 100 restaurants in front of the school gate. Ordering a hot pot and a few bottles of beer, chatting while eating, isn't that more comfortable than drinking tasteless foreign wine and eating these uncooked steaks and greasy foie gras here?" Zhu Jian's eyes widened and said, "You've eaten here before?" "I've eaten once," Fang Yin said. Zhu Jian looked embarrassed and said with some embarrassment, "I didn't order the foreign wine, steak and foie gras you mentioned. It's too expensive." Fang Yin waved his hand indifferently and said, "It doesn't matter what you eat. It's very important who you eat with." "Mr. Fang's words are reasonable," Zhu Jian said with great emotion. "It's important who you eat with. Mr. Fang, you can't understand how I feel. When I was expelled from the school, everyone saw me as a snake or scorpion. Even my wife had a deep misunderstanding of me and brought the child back to her parents' home. I wanted to see the child, but I didn't even have a chance. Your own parents, wife and child all despise you. What's the point of living in this world? To be honest, it's not that I didn't want to die. But I couldn't accept it. Fortunately, you appeared. If it weren't for you, I would still be wearing that hat and carrying that burden. I wouldn't be able to eat well, and I would wake up from my dreams time and time again. Now the bitterness is over and the sweetness is beginning. I want to repay you, but I don't know how. I've been thinking that I should treat you to a meal. Have a good meal. Find the best and most expensive restaurant in Huaqing for a meal. This Air Force One is too difficult to book. I asked Director Lee for help, and only then did I get a table in a bad position. The private room is ridiculously expensive, and we don't even have a chance to use it. Although he was mentally prepared, his hands still trembled when he saw the price of the dishes on the menu. Mr. Fong, people are still divided by class. I didn't believe it before and I didn't want to believe it. Now I believe it. Fang Yen smiled and said, I don't care if there's a hierarchy or not. Anyway, I prefer the small hot pot and 20 yuan draft beer at the school gate. That's life. I like it too, Zhu Jian said loudly. That's life. We can go there every day and drink every day. But this Air Force One, I might only come here once in my life. It's to invite you, Mr. Fong. Just think of it as a luxurious enjoyment. The two of them arrived early, and there weren't too many customers in the restaurant. Hearing Zhu Jian's words, some people had a pensive look on their faces, but more people showed disdain. Fang Yen felt that Zhu Jian was honest and frank, and had the righteousness and decadence of a scholar. This wasn't a bad thing. Zhu Jian ordered a bottle of Wuliangye. This kind of domestic liquor was expensive, but compared to foreign liquor that cost tens of thousands, it was still affordable. The dishes were served and the two chatted happily while eating. Fang Yen inadvertently raised his head and saw an acquaintance walking in. Fang Yen had no intention of standing up to greet him. He had his own friends and others had their own lives. Why bother others? He didn't expect that his friend would encounter some difficulties. Fang Yen put down the cup in his hand and said to Zhu Jian, You drink first, I'll go greet my friend. You have friends here? Zhu Jian asked in surprise. As soon as he finished speaking, Fang Yen had already left. Chapter 194. Summer walked to the left and the huge body walked to the left. Summer walked to the right and the huge body walked to the right. Summer walked to the left again and the huge body moved over again. Anyone could see that someone was deliberately looking for trouble. Summer raised her head angrily and said, Lanshan Valley, do you think this is interesting? Interesting. The tall man said. Get out of the way. No way. Lanshan Valley, I have something very important to do. Don't get in my way. For me, what I'm doing now is the most important thing. Lanshan Valley. Summer suppressed her anger and scolded. A faint red flush appeared on her tender white neck, and her bright eyes were filled with helpless anger. She was wearing a black silk evening gown, and the smooth and moist satin outlined her enchanting and sexy figure. She was covered with a small white shawl, which covered her beautiful collarbone and snow-white breasts that her slender suspenders could not cover. It was faintly discernible, attracting people's wild thoughts. Whether it was the heavenly king superstar or the girl next door, every woman was a seductive demon. They may not know Chinese, mathematics, Murphy's Law, or this year's newly elected Mr. Football. However, they must know how to present their bodies and show their most attractive side in front of men. The simple bright silver high heels wrapped around her white and flawless feet, and her toes were dyed a deep and mysterious black. Noble, gorgeous. There was also a kind of mellow beauty that was extremely rare on a star. Miss Summer, are you calling my name? Lanshan Valley crossed his arms and asked with a smile. I say, isn't it inappropriate to pursue a girl like this? Fang Yen stood behind Xiaji and looked at the man who was like a small mountain in front of them. He said, although I don't have much experience in this area, I think as long as you buy her a villa, a sports car, a diamond jewelry, beautiful clothes and a designer bag. As long as you are willing to do so, I think the girl will be willing to go with you or don't mind you standing in front of her. Xiaji turned around and saw Fang Yen. She cried out in surprise, Fang Yen, it's you? Why are you here? Fang Yen forced a smile and said, if I knew you were here, I definitely wouldn't be here today. Xia Tianran smiled sweetly and said, it's really sad to hear you say that. Are you that unwilling to see me? I just think it's too troublesome to interact with beautiful women, Fang Yen said. If you were my girlfriend, it would be natural for me to help you solve your problems. You can't be my girlfriend, right? Why should I waste my time and energy getting involved in unnecessary trouble? When you hold the hand of a tall, rich and handsome man and marry into a rich family, people who don't know will point at the back of your head and say, "Look, that poor spare tire. It's not worth it." Xiaji smiled even more happily, feeling that the man in front of him was too interesting. She had a deep impression of him the last time they met, and this time she was even more attracted by his frank and direct way of speaking. She teased, "Then shall we date? I don't want you to buy me a villa, a sports car, a diamond jewel and designer clothes. I can buy you a villa, a sports car, a diamond jewel and designer clothes." Fang Yan hurriedly waved his hand and said, "You'd better go and harm others. I don't think I'm worthy of you." "Fang Yan, you're really annoying." Xiaji laughed so hard that she couldn't breathe. "This is the first time I've confessed to a man. And I was rejected. You're a big star and you're so beautiful. I'm definitely not at ease if you run around all day long. If you do a kissing scene with someone or something like that, then wouldn't I collapse?" Fang Yan said seriously, "My little heart can't stand this stimulation. We're really not suitable for each other." Okay. Then I won't force you to date me." Xiaji magnanimously said. "It's always okay to be friends, right? Aren't we already friends?" Fang Yan said. "But friends are also divided into levels. You can only be my ordinary friend now." Xiaji felt that she really had no status in front of Fang Yan. He was a big star, why didn't he care about it at all? Lan Shanggu looked at Fang Yan, who was laughing and chatting and completely ignoring his existence, and said, "It looks like I'm redundant standing here." Xiaji waved his hand and said, "You leave first." Fang Yan glanced at Lan Shanggu and said, "You go buy a house and a car first. Be patient, good food is not afraid of late." Lan Shanggu sneered and said, "What? You're going to send me away just like that? Even if you want to put on a show of a hero saving a beauty, you have to first get rid of me, this eyesore of a villain." "All right." Lan Shanggu stopped messing around. Xiaji said helplessly. She pointed to the Lan Valley and said, "This is where I came from. We grew up in a courtyard. He often bullied me." Lan Shanggu laughed out loud. His rough face actually revealed a child's innocent smile. He said proudly, "Little Tian Tian, we meet again. We meet again. So what?" Xiaji said with dissatisfaction. "You came to Flower City but you didn't even greet me. Is that right? If Uncle and Auntie knew that I didn't even treat you to a meal when you came to Flower City, wouldn't they call me and scold me? You deserve it." Xiaji said without the slightest bit of sympathy. Xia then pointed at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan? The school's language teacher." "Fang Yan? Teacher?" Lan Shanggu's eyes instantly turned sharp as he said, "Rosefinch Secondary's teacher Fang Yan? You know me?" Fang Yan asked. Lan Shanggu smiled and said, "There aren't many people in Flower City who don't know you now, right?" Seeing the vigilance in Fang Yan's eyes, Lan Shanggu laughed even more boldly and said, "You don't have to stare at me like that. I didn't investigate you. What happened between you and Lu Chaoga as well as the Jiang and Lu families has already spread throughout Flower City. The Jiang and Lu families were set up by you guys and now they are busy killing each other. You and Lu Chaoga took a large sum of money and the real Rubik's Cube technology and ran off to set up a new company. How could we not have any news of such a big commotion this time? To be honest, I really admire you. You have to know, not everyone can take advantage of the business world's butcher and that old fox Qiang Long Tan. This move of yours is not as simple as taking advantage of others. You guys actually know each other?" Xiaji's eyes widened. Then she turned to look at Fang Yan and said, "Aren't you a teacher at school? It looks like you're very famous." Fang Yan stared sharply at the mountain valley and said, "He knows me. I'm not very familiar with him. My nickname is Small, I really don't need you to worry about me." Lan Shanggu chuckled and said, "Besides, I'm also afraid of being remembered by you. Look at my appearance, it's obvious that I'm a simple character with well-developed limbs. If you set me up, who am I going to reason with?" Xiaji looked at Fang Yan and said, "Don't listen to his nonsense. He's Lan Shanggu. You might not be familiar with this name, but among the 4 prodigies of Huaqing, which one of them is simple? He's one of the 4 prodigies of Huaqing. He seems to be quite famous in Huaqing." Don't. Lan Shanggu waved his hand and said, "I say Xiaji, don't put me together with those guys. I can't afford to lose that person. You don't know, do you? The person standing in front of you right now is much more famous than the 4 young masters of Huaqing. At the very least he has already lost 2 young masters in his hands. Do you know what nickname he has?" "What nickname?" "Flower Breaker Young Master." Lan Shanggu said. Aren't we some four prodigies? He broke the flowers one by one. Didn't he become the flower breaker young master? What happened? Xiaji looked at Lan Shanggu in confusion. Although she had a deep background and an extraordinary background, most of her thoughts were on singing and acting. She was so busy that she didn't even have time to take a nap. How could she have the time and energy to pay attention to the movements of these young masters in Huaqing? Lan Shanggu smiled but didn't answer. He said, if you're interested you can listen to Mr. Fang's story. He's the person involved and also the teacher. He'll definitely be more hot-blooded than me. Xiaji looked at Fang Yan. Fang Yan smiled helplessly and said, actually there's nothing much to say. It's the story of an ordinary citizen resisting the demolition bully. You must be tired of reading this kind of news in the newspapers. Lan Shanggu gave a thumbs up to Fang Yan and said, now that you mention it, it really is the case. If Jiang Zhulu and Lu Shu, these two arrogant guys, knew that you described them as evil tyrants, I'm afraid they would spit out a few more liters of blood. Fang Yan glanced at Xia Kiki and said, since you are friends, then I misunderstood. I still have friends here, so I won't disturb you. With that, Fang Yan turned around to leave. Teacher Fang Yan. Wait a minute. Xiaji anxiously shouted. What's the matter? Fang Yan stopped and asked. Xia looked at Lan Valley and said, you have friends here too, right? Yes. Lan Shanggu nodded. When have I, Langu Valley, ever paid for my meals outside? Then go and accompany your friends. Xia said. Don't let others wait too long. It's impolite. She turned around and pulled Fang Yan saying, Fang Yan, you appeared at the right time. Come do me a favor. What? Fang Yan asked. Fight against counterfeits. Xia Kiki smiled slyly and said. Fight against counterfeits? Lan Shanggu looked at the backs of the two of them as they left, a gloomy expression appearing on his face. Very quickly he returned to his harmless big guy appearance and shouted, hey, you two are going to send me away just like that. Chapter 195. Fang Yan was good at beating people up and being beaten up, but this was the first time he had done something like this. He was dragged into the private room by Xiaji. Along the way, all the waiters who saw them bowed to greet them. Surprisingly, no one took out their phone to take a picture or pounced on him to ask for an autograph. If Zhu Jian saw this, he would probably praise number one in the air for being worth the money. The waiter helped to push open the thick door of the private room, and a man's loud voice floated out. The Chen family's fists, the Tan family's legs, and the other kung fu all rely on the mouth. Why do you say that? Because most of the other kung fu is packaged by bragging and has no practical value. Look at the martial arts masters of our Wuxia country. Each one is more powerful than the other, and each one is more famous than the other. But what is the actual situation? As soon as we fight with foreigners, we get beaten up like a fried bean curd. Especially the few times we fought with the Thai boxers, we actually didn't win even once. We were beaten so badly by them that we felt ashamed to say it out loud. Although Wuxia martial arts as a whole gives people the feeling that the sun is setting in the west, there is also a group of hot-blooded people who are working hard to correct its name. Do you know which master my master learned martial arts from? State Preceptor Li Zonghao. Who is Li Zonghao? What kind of people are his disciples? That's the Imperial Guards, the elites of the elites who serve the country's leader, and also the Dragon Protection Branch. That Chen Jingfeng from the Chen family and Tan Qinglin from the Tan family aren't even worthy of carrying shoes for State Preceptor Li. The man's voice stopped abruptly because he saw Xia and Fang Yan walking into the private room. Feng Yuanqing saw Xia and quickly got up to greet him. Xia, why are you here? Xia was referring to Xia and the sentence, why are you here, was obviously directed at Fang Yan. He didn't expect that Xia would bring his old enemy Fang Yan along. Last time at the hotel on Shisha Mountain, he was forced to apologize by Fang Yan's students. This made him lose all face and he felt deeply ashamed. This time when they met again he naturally wouldn't give Fang Yan any face to see. Long distance when I came in I met Fang Yan so I asked him to come in with me. Xia explained with a gentle smile. Although his attitude was amiable, his tone was unquestionable. Since I've already brought him in, I won't let him out so easily. You called me to introduce a Guishu expert to me. Are you referring to these two here? Feng Yuanqing glared fiercely at Fang Yan, and when he looked at Xia, his smile had already become gentle and affectionate. He pointed to the middle-aged man sitting on the sofa and said, this is Tai Chi Master Lu Shueru, the head of the Qingyang Martial Arts School in Yanjing and the vice president of the Yanjing Martial Arts Association. Last month, Wuxia television station did a documentary called Tai Chi World, which told the story of Teacher Lu. Teacher Lu has students all over the world and is one of the top experts in the country. Lu Shueru had a thin, long beard, a dignified appearance and bright eyes. He was dressed in a black tang suit, which made him look extraordinary. In his hand, he was holding 19 pieces of gold-threaded Nanmu prayer beads. He was slowly spinning them in his palm, carefully playing with them. When everyone looked at him, he did not get up. He only smiled faintly at Xia. He had the demeanor of a man who was far away from the world. Feng Yuanqing pointed to the eloquent young man and said, "This is Master Lu's disciple, Wang Hongying. He won the 3rd place in the national Tai Chi competition with serious injuries. He is amazing." Wang Hongying was short and thin with triangular eyes and few eyebrows. He looked like a yellow-skinned monkey. He was wearing a white tang suit, but he deliberately pretended to be an elegant gentleman, which seemed a little out of place. When Wang Hongying saw the big star Xia, he quickly walked up and stretched out his hands to shake hands with Xia. He said with a smile, "If someone else asked us to act together, we would never agree. What is Chinese martial arts? Only killing people without performing is Chinese martial arts. What's the point of putting on a show in front of the camera? Isn't that insulting?" Seeing Feng Yuanqing's unhappy face, Wang Hongying changed the topic and said, "But I heard that Miss Xia is looking for us, and Brother Feng is sincere, so my master and I decided to come and have a look. Miss Xia, I am your loyal fan. This cooperation can be considered as my close cooperation with my idol, right?" Fang Yin laughed in his heart. This guy had flattered 2 people with a single sentence. He didn't know how good his real skills were, but his eloquence was definitely top-notch. Xia Qin and Wang Hongying's hands touched for a moment and said gratefully, "Thank you, then I'll have to trouble you 2 masters." "You're welcome. It's our honor to be able to cooperate with Miss Xia." Wang Hongying seemed to be the spokesperson for his master Lu Shueru. His master closed his eyes and didn't say a word, but he alone took care of the social interaction. Feng Yuanqing looked at Xia Chen and said, "Xia, we're waiting for you to eat. Now that everyone is here, can we get someone to serve the dishes?" "Of course." Xia Ji smiled and nodded. "Master Lu, Master Wang, I came late. I solemnly apologize to the 2 teachers. Miss Xia is too polite." Wang Hongying waved his hand and said. His gaze turned to Fang Yen, who was beside Xia Chen, and asked, "This is?" "It's my friend Fang Yen," Xia Ji said with a smile. When Xia looked at Fang Yen, he blinked his eyes, meaning to say, "Help me keep an eye on them and see if these 2 guys are really Tai Chi experts." Red Eagle, speaking of which, you guys are the same. Feng Yuanqing reminded with a kind expression, "This is a Tai Chi expert." "You also know Tai Chi?" Wang Hongying was interested when she looked at Fang Yen. Even the Tai Chi master Lu Shueru, who was sitting on the sofa to rest, opened his eyes and looked at Fang Yen, then instantly returned to normal. Young and short of breath, it was hard to look at. "I know a little," Fang Yen said with a smile. He now understood why Xia Chen said that she wanted to bring him here to fight against counterfeits. It felt like there were 2 Tai Chi masters waiting to work with her. The last time they met, Xia Chen had indicated that she wanted to add elements of Wuxia style to her new album. When she saw Fang Yan's Tai Chi performance at the peak of Zhangxia Mountain, she was shocked and wholeheartedly wanted to cooperate with Fang Yan. Unexpectedly, after being rejected several times by Fang Yan, Xia Chen had no choice but to find another expert. Feng Yuanqing understood Xia Chen's thoughts, so he asked around and found Lu Shueru and Wang Hongying to recommend them to Xia Chen. If Lu Shueru and Wang Hongying were more powerful than Fang Yan, would they still look for Fang Yan cooperation in the summer? Obviously not. This was also the reason why Feng Yuanqing had called Xia Chen several times to invite her to the banquet, because he knew what was on Xia Chen's mind the most right now. Wang Hongying was overjoyed and said, "That's good. Come, let's push each other. The dishes haven't arrived yet, so let's warm up first." Xia Chen refused and said, "Let's eat first. The dishes are coming up." The reason she invited Fang Yan to help her fight against counterfeits was only because she subconsciously felt that Fang Yan was an expert. However, she had no idea how high Fang Yan's level was. If Fang Yan were to be injured by the Tai Chi expert that Feng Yuanqing had found, then it would be her fault. She only wanted Fang Yan to help her see if she could find any flaws in the words and actions of these people. As for sparring, she felt that it was very dangerous. "Miss Xia, don't worry. When we spar with each other, we always stop at the right time. It won't hurt anyone. Wang Hongying explained to Xia Chen. Fang Yen also waved his hand and said, "Forget it." "What is it? Brother, you're not giving me face?" Wang Hongying was unhappy. Scholars make friends through poetry, and we martial artists naturally make friends through martial arts. Only by sparring with each other and advancing together can we improve day by day. What kind of future can we have if we are stuck in a rut and don't seek to make progress? It's not that I don't want to give you face. I'm just a teacher. What do I need such brilliant martial arts for? If I use Tai Chi to hit a student, and the student sues me for corporal punishment, I still have to eat the school board, isn't that right? Feng Yuanqing looked at Wang Hongying with a smile and said, "Red Eagle, forget it. Since he's afraid, don't force him." Hearing Feng Yuanqing's words, Wang Hongying's determination to spar with Fang Yen was even more determined. If he could perform well in front of the summer goddess, he might be able to enter the eyes of the goddess and have a chance to get close to her. Men not only look at their face but also at their kung fu. "Are you going to fight or not?" Wang Hongying said with a look of disdain. "It's annoying. How can he be as straightforward and heroic as us martial artists? Who is your master? Is that what he taught you? The next time I see him, I want to test him and see if he's a good-for-nothing like you." Wang Hongying looked at Xia Chen apologetically and said, "Miss Xia, please don't mind, we martial artists are like this. We have a fiery temper." Fang Yen was amused by the kid's performance and said, "Who is my master? With your cultivation you definitely won't have the chance to see him. I have to say you're very lucky." He squatted down slightly and stretched out a hand. He waved at Wang Hongying and said, "Since you strongly request it, then I'll accompany you to push your hands." Wang Hongying's face flushed with excitement and said, "That's right. A man should have some guts." He gave Feng Yuanqing a look that said, "Don't worry, I'll teach this kid a good lesson." He strode in front of Fang Yen and said, "Kid, learn a little. I'm not someone who will push hands with others so easily." Fang Yen thought for a moment and said helplessly, "You always steal other people's lines like this. Do you know that you make others speechless?" "What?" Wang Hongying put her hand on Fang Yan's wrist and looked at him in confusion. Fang Yan's right foot rushed forward, and with a flick of his wrist, Wang Hongying's body flew backward as if he had been electrocuted. Bang! His body fell heavily on the carpet a few meters away. The strength had not dissipated, and his body continued to slide forward. Clang! His head heavily hit the glass tea table in front of Lu Xueru, and only then did he stop. Fang Yen looked at Feng Yuanqing and the others and said embarrassedly, "He's right, we martial artists have such a fiery temper." Chapter 196. The smile on Feng Yuanqing's face froze before it could spread. It was like the extreme cold before the earth was destroyed. Butterflies were flapping their wings, bees were busy gathering pollen, children were chasing and playing in the grass, and dung beetles were asking their mothers why they were eating shit. Everything was so quiet and beautiful. A black cloud floated over and they were frozen into ice sculptures. Feng Yuanqing felt that his heart was colder than an ice sculpture. Was this the Tai Chi master he invited? Was this the national third place he bragged about? It was obviously a fake product. If Wang Hongying was not the person he found, Feng Yuanqing would definitely suspect that this guy was paid by Fang Yen to cooperate with him. It was too fake. You flew so far away when I touched you. Do you think this is a martial arts film? We are too embarrassed to write a script like this when we are filming. Xiaji's mouth was slightly open and her pupils were swollen. She could not believe the scene in front of her. She wanted to say, "Stop there." She wanted to say, "Don't hurt people." She also wanted to say, the battle was over before she could say anything. Was this Tai Chi? Wasn't it too simple? Was this Tai Chi? Wasn't it too domineering? Lu Xueru's eyes opened in an instant. His long beard was flying and his thick eyebrows were imposing without anger. His eyes were like sharp blades that cut Fang Yan's face again and again. "Inch force?" Lu Xueru asked in a deep voice. "You can say that," Fang Yan said. "But we all call it thunder." Thunder not only used strength but also controlled the momentum. Just now, when Fang Yen sent Wang Hongying flying, he first used thunder and then used his inner force to beat him to the point that he could not fight back. Fang Yen did not explain. He knew that Lu Xueru did not understand. Lu Xueru stood up and walked straight to Fang Yen. He did not care about his disciple Wang Hongying's life and did not look at him from beginning to end. It was as if he had become a dead man. Heartless. This was Fang Yan's evaluation of Lu Xueru. This kind of person was very dangerous. Because of their cold temperament, they were easy to get into a dead end when practicing martial arts. Without being able to establish a sect, it would be difficult for one to become a great master. However, this kind of person was extremely talented. If this was the ancient world of martial arts, they would be evil sects that harmed the world of martial arts and attempted to unify the world of martial arts. In the end, they were killed by young heroes. Fang Yin pointed at Wang Hongying, who was lying on the ground vomiting blood, and reminded, "Don't you want to see your disciple? His internal organs are injured and he needs immediate treatment. You want to break my Dao heart?" Lu Xueru stared at Fang Yin with ridicule in his eyes, disdainful of his insignificant tricks. Deaths and injuries are unavoidable in sparring. You hurt him. That's your ability. He was injured by you because he wasn't skilled enough. Who could be blamed? His life and death have nothing to do with me. Your life and death are under my control. Sounds reasonable, Fang Yin said with a smile. But this can't hide the fact that you're cruel and unscrupulous, bastard. Lu Xueru shouted angrily. With a flash, he appeared in front of Fang Yin and clawed at Fang Yin's eyes. Eagle peck. This move was extremely ruthless. He wanted to copy the eagle's man-eating method and forcefully dig out Fang Yan's eyeballs. You're courting death. Fang Yin was completely enraged. In sparring, even if Wang Hongying insulted his sect, he would only give a light punishment. This old thing's heart was vicious. He actually wanted to take someone's life and cripple them. It was really shameful and hateful. Instead of retreating, he moved forward and clawed at Lu Xueru's wrists that were grabbing at his eyes. Lu Xueru had rich combat experience and changed his move at the last moment. He changed the position of the eagle's peck and clawed at Fang Yan's wrists. Fang Yan also changed his moves, looking for traces of Lu Xueru's claws after he changed his move. The two changed their moves at the same time. Their hands didn't touch and their clothes didn't touch. Their hands didn't touch and their clothes didn't touch. In the eyes of a bystander, it was like an old man and a handsome young man were playing a drinking game. One hand gesture changed and the other followed. The difference was that the hand gestures became faster and faster, and the changes became fiercer and fiercer. Finally, it became a blurry phantom that couldn't be seen clearly. However, the wind was whistling and the atmosphere was solemn. Even if you couldn't see their moves clearly, you could feel that it was extremely dangerous. It was as if there was a big stone pressing on your heart, so heavy that you couldn't breathe. In the blink of an eye, Fang Yin and Lu Xueru had already exchanged 60 or 70 moves. This guy dared to open a dojo in Yanjing and accept disciples, so he really did have some skills. The sound of clothes tearing came. Fang Yin and Lu Xueru's figures were like magnets with strong magnetic fields, bouncing to the sides. Lu Xueru's face was ugly, and Fang Yan's hand was holding a piece of cloth that was torn from Lu Xueru's sleeve. This time it was obvious that Lu Xueru had lost by a bit. Good kung fu. Very fast reaction. Very strong qigong. Lu Xueru used the word good 3 times in a row, and stared at Fang Yin with sharp eyes and said, "Who is your master? To be able to teach a disciple like you, your master must not be a nobody. You'd better say your master's name to avoid the flood rushing against the Dragon King Temple. If we meet again, I won't be able to explain it to your master's elders." Fang Yin was really angry and amused. All along he felt that Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan were very shameless. He didn't expect that the guy he met today was even more shameless than Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan combined. I have seen a lot of TV movies and I have summed up a few conclusions to share with you. First, generally, people who take the initiative to say that you'd better say your master's name to avoid the flood rushing against the Dragon King Temple are bad people. Because good people don't need to care about their master's name, they only care about the opponent's position, right or wrong. Second, the person who takes the initiative to say this must be the weaker side. Third, this sentence is usually said after the fight is over. This is because the bad guy on the weaker side knows that he can't win, but he's too embarrassed to admit defeat directly, so he can only find a reason to get out of the situation by using his connections. Fang Yin turned to look at Feng Yuanqing and said, "You act in a movie. Do you always write your scripts like this?" Feng Yuanqing thought about it seriously, and his face turned pale, feeling that he had been shot in the chest again. Fang Yin looked at Lu Xueru with a smile and said, "I won't let you get what you want. I won't give you the chance to use your relationship. Of course, the reason why I don't tell you my master's name has nothing to do with what I said. I just feel that you can't have any relationship with us." Arrogant kid. Lu Xueru's face was green with anger. Blue veins popped out and all the bones in his body cracked. "Since you don't know how to appreciate favors, then don't blame me for hurting you." Fang Yin waved at him and said, "Come." Lu Xueru raised the prayer beads with both hands and pulled hard. Pah! The thread snapped, and the 19 golden Jinnan prayer beads scattered into a straight line. Lu Xueru waved his right sleeve, and the 19 prayer beads were all pulled into his robe. Brick. With a loud shout, the 19 prayer beads shot out like 19 cannonballs. The 19 prayer beads formed 3 formations: the first grade formation, the 3 talents formation, and the 11 chain formation. The formations were interlocked and the beads were connected. Each bead had killing intent, and each formation had killing intent. Killing intent shook the heavens. Like a swarm of locusts, like a sky full of stars, the 19 suns formed 2 small formations and 1 large formation and charged towards Fang Yan. They surrounded and isolated him from all directions, as well as all possible escape routes and possible changes in the formation. The 3 formations were connected and formed a new formation, the end of generations formation. This was a common saying in Jianghu. If the 3 formations passed through, not a single chicken or dog would be spared, and all humans and gods would be destroyed. This was a sure kill weapon used in large-scale battles, and its power was endless. Right now there was only Fang Yan in the eye of the formation. If there were other parents and brothers standing together with Fang Yan, they would also be annihilated. That was why there was the saying of ending one's descendants. Fang Yan closed his eyes. The dantian in his body was scorching hot. That was because the heart of Tai Chi was stimulated by the strong killing intent, and it automatically operated. The realm of Tai Chi, the land controlled by it, is my realm. The land is mine, the cattle and sheep are mine, the mountains and rivers are also mine. Everything is mine. I am the king. Time stopped. Space stopped. Fang Yan could clearly see Feng Yuanqing's open mouth and the beads of sweat on his forehead. He could see Feng Yuanqing's frightened eyes and the light yellow fluff on his face. Wang Hongying also got up. His expression was ferocious with hatred, and the joy of revenge. Time would not stop and space would not stop. However, in Fang Yan's eyes, everything seemed to have slowed down. Just like an airplane flying high in the sky, when your speed reaches a certain number, you will find that the clouds are still, and so are you. In fact, you are flying, moving, advancing at a supersonic speed. The heart of Tai Chi, cleansing the muscles and marrow, strengthening the body and spirit. Fang Yan moved. His figure unfolded at the speed of a sand sculpture escaping from a rabbit, his posture relaxed, his expression romantic. The first grade formation took the lead and attacked first. He stretched out his right hand and grasped the first grade formation eye prayer bead, holding it in the palm of his hand. The formation was broken. The 3-talent formation arrived in the blink of an eye. Fang Yan stretched out his hand again and grasped the prayer bead in the eye of the formation. It was as easy as picking a peach in the garden. The formation was broken. The 11-child chain formation surrounded Fang Yan. They formed a trident and fiercely stabbed towards Fang Yan's chest. Fang Yan took out the 3 prayer beads in the eye of the formation and rearranged them. Then he stuffed all the prayer beads he had picked from the grade 1 formation, 3 talents formation, into the transformed 11-child interlocking formation. Fang Yan's body moved like a ghost through the formation, his hands dancing up and down as fast as lightning. Crack. With a crisp sound, the 19 prayer beads formed a spear in Fang Yan's hand. The spearhead was like the head of a snake, swaying, looking left and right as if looking for prey. Fang Yan pushed hard with both hands. The spear distorted space, cut through the air, and shot back at an unpredictable speed. Lu Xueru was terrified and turned to escape. Crack. The prayer bead spear passed through Lu Xueru's body and nailed to the wall of the private room with a bang. Chapter 197. Crack. Until this time, the bead at the end of the prayer bead spear fell to the ground. Crack. Another one. Pa 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 pa. The other beads also fell to the ground. After the bead in front fell to the ground, the bead behind followed. It could be seen that even without the silk thread, the connection of these beads was still very tight. The handle of the spear was getting shorter and shorter and finally disappeared. Except for the 3 prayer beads that crashed into the wall, the other 16 prayer beads were all intact. The most amazing and puzzling thing was that this golden Nanmu was not a heavy and hard wood. Why could it collide with each other without breaking? Shoot into the wall without breaking? The energy was as hard as steel. Flying flowers could hurt people and a leaf could take people's head. Even flesh and blood could break mountains and stones with the help of the energy, let alone wood that was harder than the palm. Everyone was stunned. Was he still a human? Was this a myth? Before the duel, Feng Yuanqing and Wang Hongying had different expressions. Feng Yuanqing was cursing and gloating, and Wang Hongying was filled with hatred and joy at the prospect of getting her revenge. Whether it was Feng Yuanqing or Wang Hongying, they thought that as long as Lu Xueru was willing to fight, then Fang Yan could only be beaten. There would be no second result. Although Xia Xia saw Fang Yan practicing Tai Chi from a distance, his posture was very beautiful, which was in line with the mood she wanted. However, she didn't have an answer in her mind about Fang Yan's actual combat experience. When the battle was over, their expressions all became like this. Oh, zero. How is it possible? Lu Xueru looked down at his chest, unable to accept the facts in front of him. He lost. He lost so miserably. Puff, blood was flowing. Because the prayer beads pierced through his body, the wound was neat and cylindrical. At that moment, the beads turned into a spear, which was extremely hard and indestructible. The blood soaked his clothes and mixed with the air, making the sound of blood bubbles. Why not? Fang Yan sneered. Do you think you are the best in the world? How can you take my formation? Lu Xueru still couldn't believe what had happened in front of him. He had 1,800 reasons for suspicion. Lu Xueru made a name for himself at a young age. Later on, he became Li Zhonghao's disciple and was one of the top Tai Chi experts in Yanjin. Lu Xueru was extremely conceited. He finished his apprenticeship at the age of 30 and opened a dojo in Beijing to accept disciples. He defeated challengers from all over the world and once claimed to be invincible under the age of 40. On the other hand, his master, Li Zhonghao, was already 55 years old. Obviously, he was not within the scope of his contempt. This sentence had been shouted for many years and it had never failed before. He was the representative of Huaxia's martial arts and the leader of Li's Tai Chi. Therefore, when Fang Yan walked in, Feng Yuanqing had introduced him as the male lead of Huaxia TV's large-scale documentary, Tai Chi World. What about Fang Yan? When Fang Yan first followed Xia in, Lu Xueru didn't even look at him. Even if it was Xia himself, he just smiled indifferently. He didn't get up, shake hands or greet him. He had the demeanor of a peerless master. Later, when Feng Yuanqing said that Fang Yan was a Tai Chi expert, he opened his eyes and glanced at Fang Yan. Then he quickly closed his eyes again. How strong could this green-haired boy be, and how deep could his cultivation be? Besides, Fang Yan's appearance really didn't have the demeanor of a master. If you didn't wear a tang suit or a layman's robe, and if you didn't have a string of beads on your neck or hand, who would be willing to admit that you were a martial arts master? Packaging was very important in Jianghu. It was not until Fang Yan knocked away his disciple Wang Hongying with one move that he began to take Fang Yan seriously. He also wanted to take the initiative to challenge and to save his face. No matter how bad Wang Hongying's skills were, he was Lu Xueru's disciple after all. His disciple was knocked away in front of him and he didn't look good. If he didn't do anything, it would be really difficult for him to step down. But how did he lose? His first grade, 3 talents and 11 children chain formation was a big killer move found in an ancient book. He had practiced it for more than 17 years, and its power was extremely great. He had lost many good people, including some famous people in the whole of Huaxia. This Fang Yan, was he even 17 years old? Tai Chi to control the force, lightning to break the formation. Fang Yan said with a smile. When a person's internal energy is deep and his momentum is great, a stare at you is lightning, a roar is lightning, a punch is also lightning. Fang Yan waved his hand disinterestedly and said, "There's no point in talking to you about this. Even if I said it, you wouldn't understand. A scum like you who has evil thoughts, who easily breaks people's bones and takes their lives, is really harmful to nature and goes against the harmony of heaven. Even if you spend your whole life, you still won't be able to achieve the great Tao." You. Lu Xueru was furious. With a poochie sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng Yuanqing couldn't dodge in time, and was drenched by this rain of blood. He stood there awkwardly, his mouth slightly open, but he couldn't say a word. Although Lu Xueru was defeated by Fang Yan, if those pearls were flying towards him, there would be as many holes on his body as there were pearls, right? Such a dangerous person, he really couldn't afford to offend. Fall. Fang Yan said. Lu Xueru stood there without moving. He felt that he could still hold on for a while. At least he couldn't fall in front of this nameless junior. You standing there makes me lose face. People who don't know would think that the two of us are cooperating to perform magic. Anger appeared on Lu Xueru's face again, but the anger quickly turned into an expression of pain. Because when he was angry, it affected the wound on his chest. Once the wound moved, the pain pierced his heart. That forcefully held breath of chi broke just like that. Bastard. Lu Xueru knew that he was tricked again. Plop. Lu Xueru cooperated and knelt on the ground, then his body slowly slid to the carpet. Master. Wang Hongying climbed up from the ground and quickly ran in the direction of Lu Xueru. Master, how are you? Master, are you okay? Master. Fang Yin sighed softly. Although Wang Hongying's skills were not good, his character was not good and he looked a bit too wretched, but he was still a very good disciple. At least he regarded his master as his master. As for Lu Xueru, he didn't regard Wang Hongying as his disciple at all. People who practiced martial arts paid the most attention to the word friendship. In the eyes of Fang Yin, Lu Xueru was a completely unqualified opponent. Fang Yin walked in front of Xiaji and said, "The assessment is over, these two are fake." Xiaji finally woke up from the state of shock. After looking at Lu Xueru and Wang Hongying lying on the ground, he said to Feng Yuanqing, who was not far away, "Yuanqing, Teacher Lu and Teacher Wang are your friends. You treat them well for me. All the expenses will be borne by me. Sorry to trouble you." After that, he turned around and walked out of the box. Feng Yuanqing opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't shout out what he wanted to say. Things had developed to this point, it was no longer suitable for Xiaji to stay here. If a waiter came in or someone else saw it, it would cause a huge image crisis. More importantly, he was the one who invited Lu Xueru and Wang Hongying over. Although Fang Yin was a hateful person and he was too heavy-handed, he was the only one who could clean up the mess. Could it be that he still had to let Xiaji take action? If that was the case, he was afraid that he would have no place in her heart, right? Fang Yin followed behind Xiaji. The two were about to leave, but Wang Hongying suddenly ran to the door and blocked their way. "You want to leave after injuring someone?" Wang Hongying shouted viciously. "I want to call the police. I want the police to arrest all of you." "Fang Yin, aren't you fierce? Aren't you powerful? You made me and my master like this. This is a crime of intentional injury. I want to see how you explain it to the police when they come." A cornered dog jumps over a wall, not to mention the hot-tempered Wang Hongying. After he scolded Fang Yin, he turned his attack on Xiaji. "Xiaji, you bitch, you asked someone to invite me and master to come over to act for you? Now you're looking for a little pimp to beat us. You stood on the side and didn't say a word, and now you want to take the murderer away. Aren't you a star queen? Aren't you a pure jade girl in the entertainment circle? I'm going to ruin your reputation today. I'm going to let your fans see what kind of a bitch the woman they love is." Feng Yuanqing was anxious and rushed in front of Wang Hongying and shouted, "Wang Hongying, shut up. Get out of the way, we will send your master to the hospital immediately. I will give you money, give you a lot of money. I won't let you come for nothing." Bah! Wang Hongying slapped Feng Yuanqing's face. Wang Hongying had practiced kung fu before and this time she was furious. She slapped Feng Yuanqing's fair and tender face until it was purple and red, leaving a clear palm print on it. Because Wang Hongying had left her fingernails, it was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but her fingernails scratched under Feng Yuanqing's eyelid, tearing off a piece of flesh, dripping with blood. "Feng Yuanqing, you idiot trash. You wanted to pick up girls, so master and I came to support you. We were beaten like dead dogs and you stood there not even daring to fart. Why were we beaten? Why was master injured? Wasn't it because you wanted that bastard surnamed Fang to have a bad ending? Money? I don't fucking want money. I want you to die. I want you to lose your reputation and become the joke of the world." Feng Yuanqing stood there and covered his face. His face hurt and his heart hurt even more. Wang Hongying was crazy. This mad dog had lost his mind, and now he would bite whoever he caught. Wang Hongying did not open the door but shouted through the door, "Someone come quickly, murder! Someone come quickly!" Bang! Fang Yin walked over and knocked Wang Hongying out with a punch. He glanced at Feng Yuanqing and said, "No need to thank me." Chapter 198. When Fang Yin came out, Zhu Jian was already gone. The waiter handed him a note and said, "Mr. Fang, your friend has to leave first. He left you a note." Fang Yin opened the note. On it was a row of beautiful words. "The bill has been paid. This place is charged by the hour. I'm not sure when you'll be back, so I'll go back first." Fang Yin grinned. Zhu Jian wanted to pretend to be a tycoon, but the pressure of sitting there and not ordering anything and spending money every minute and second must have made him restless, right? This society was really realistic. "What are you laughing at?" Xia asked curiously. "I'm thinking, is this a fake or a beating?" Fang Yin replied with a smile. Xiaji's face was full of apology as he looked at Fang Yin and said, "I'm really sorry. Feng Yuanqing called and said he wanted to introduce me to two Tai Chi experts. You know, I really hope that my new album can add some Tai Chi elements, but you rejected me several times. I actually don't know much about Tai Chi, so I wanted to ask you to help me take a look. I didn't expect something like this to happen. Forget it. Anyway, it has already happened. Fang Yan waved his hand and said very generously, you just need to make some compensation. How can I compensate you? Xiaji asked with a smile. Fang Yan laughed and said, then treat me to dinner. I wasn't full just now. Hearing Fang Yan say that she wasn't full, Xia remembered that she hadn't eaten tonight. With an apologetic expression she said, no problem. What do you want to eat? I'll see if I can book a private room here. No need. Fang Yan waved his hand. It's better not to eat here. Something unpleasant had just happened, and eating here would affect one's appetite. Besides eating here, even if I eat a lot of dishes, I still don't feel full. Xiaji squinted his eyes and smiled, asking, what do you want to eat? At the roadside barbecue stall. Fang Yan and Xiaji found a table near the corner and hid Xiaji's body in the shadows that were difficult for the lights to reach. Fang Yan called the boss over and skillfully ordered a lot of food. He said, boss, please give me 2 more bottles of beer. All right. I'll be there in a while. The boss replied, but his eyes were extremely strange as he looked at Xiaji. This girl's clothes, appearance, temperament? No matter how he looked at it, she didn't look like she was here to eat barbecue. When the boss left, Fang Yan looked at Xiaji and said, look at you, your style of clothes is not close to the people. If others see us sitting together, they will definitely misunderstand that I'm a pretty boy who specializes in deceiving rich girls. Xiaji smiled bitterly and said, Yen. As a public figure, Yen, said. They stared at the results of your works, the gossip about you, and the way you dress. If you appeared in public wearing the same clothes half a year ago and wore it again half a year later, the reporters would say that you were outdated and that you didn't have the money to change into a new one. If your lip gloss was too bright or your eyeshadow was too heavy, you would also be attacked and criticized by them. You don't have to care, but you don't want to go through too much trouble. So it's not wrong to follow the crowd. It's not easy being a celebrity. Fang Yan nodded in agreement. That's why I refuse to be the male lead in your music video. If I accidentally become popular and people ask for my autograph wherever I go, and young and beautiful girls run over to take pictures with me, how distressed can I be? Should I say yes or no? Not the male lead of the MV. Xiaji corrected. These are some scenes of you practicing Tai Chi. If you don't agree, we don't have to use your face. We just want the moves and aura you use when you practice Tai Chi. You don't even use my face. Isn't that insulting? Fang Yan said angrily. When the beer was served, Fang Yan asked the owner to send the beer utensils. Xiaqin said, your kung fu is so good, can't you just use your hands to open it? Of course. Fang Yan took the wine opener from the boss and said, but I'm a low-key person. I don't want to attract too much attention. The boss looked at Fang Yan with disdain. He thought to himself, such a beautiful woman, could she have been deceived by this guy's glib tongue? Bang. The beer bottle cap popped open. Fang Yan used a disposable plastic cup to pour a cup for Xia and then filled the cup in front of him. Fang Yan picked up his glass and said, come big star, let me toast you. This should be your first time eating barbecue at a roadside stall, right? Xiaji shook his head and said, Mom doesn't want me to eat these things. She says it's too dirty. I don't care. When I was studying, I often sneaked out with my classmates to eat barbecue and drink beer. After that, I rarely had the chance. Xiaji picked up his glass and touched it with Fang Yan's. Then the two of them drank the chilled beer at the same time. From the inside to the outside there was a refreshing feeling. Even the depression caused by the Lu Xueru incident tonight was mostly gone. Master Lu. Will he be all right? Xiaji asked worriedly. Fang Yan coldly snorted and said, this person's heart is evil and his attacks are ruthless. He tried to take my life several times. His beta ray is indeed very powerful. If my martial arts were slightly weaker, I wouldn't be able to sit here and chat with you tonight. I've only seriously injured him, which is already considered merciful. I don't want to cause any trouble for you. I'm really sorry. Xiaji picked up the bottle again and filled their glasses, saying, let me toast you. Fang Yan smiled again and said, I don't think there are many people who can get you to pour wine now. I haven't drunk for many years. Xia said. Why are you making an exception today? Xiaji thought for a moment and said, I just want to have a drink. It doesn't make sense. It's just like sometimes when I can't sleep in the middle of the night, I suddenly want to eat fried chicken with beer, braised chicken wings, spicy pickled fish, and even KFC McDonald's that I rarely eat. Xiaji laughed heartily and said, besides, I'm treating you tonight. When the guests drink, how can the host not accompany them? You're not a bad person, Fang Yan said. At least it's not annoying. That's your final evaluation of me? Not bad. Don't you know? A lot of people don't like summer. Oh, I'd like to know who doesn't like summer. All the couples in the world, Fang Yan said. Because when summer comes, the weather is too hot for couples to hug each other. I have a question for you. Although I don't know much about Tai Chi, however, doesn't Tai Chi pay attention to using softness to overcome hardness, requiring the practitioner to be calm and not easily hurt others? Why did Lu Shueru easily attack people heavily? You also beat him up miserably? Fang Yan smiled and said, Taiping Guangji Volume 174, quoting the chapter, Tan Su. Assistant Minister Shui Daoheng of the Sui dynasty visited Mount Zhong's Kaishan temple and asked this little monk, why is Vajra angry? Why does Bodhisattva lower his eyebrows? This little monk answered, Vajra angry, so he subdued the 4 demons. Bodhisattva lowers his eyebrows, so he is merciful to the 6 paths. You mean good and evil are separated by a single thought? Good people do good, evil people do evil. This has nothing to do with the kung fu learned but has something to do with the target? You can say that. Fang Yan nodded. After thinking for a while, he added, in fact it's mainly because I couldn't control myself. He wanted to hit me so I beat him up. He wanted to kill me so I beat him half to death. Good people still suffer losses. At this time, Fang Yan's phone rang in his pocket. Fang Yan took it out and saw the number written on the screen was Kiss. Kiss. Fang Yan was stunned for a few seconds before he remembered that was Jiang Qin's nickname. However, he had never saved her phone number like that. How did it become Kiss? When Fang Yan picked up the phone, he heard Jiang Qin's voice. The little girl asked arrogantly, Mr. Fang, where are you? Fang Yan immediately looked around thinking, they won't happen to see me taking Xia Tian to eat barbecue, right? After finding no suspicious enemy, Fang Yan said, I'm eating. Where are you eating? Jiang Qin asked. Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, you won't let me tell you where I'm eating, who I'm eating with, and what kind of dishes I'm eating, right? Jiang Qin giggled and said in a soft voice, if you want, I won't object. Say it quickly. What's the matter? If you don't say it, I'll hang up. Come and sing. Jiang Qin said. Drink songs? No way. I'm busy. Fang Yan said and was about to hang up the phone. If you don't come, I'll go to the school gate to wait for you. Jiang Qin threatened. Yuan Xiaolin said she's going too. The 2 of us are going to hold a banner to the school gate to woo. Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, it's really inconvenient. You know, my singing level is not very good. Singing? Xia Tian's eyes lit up and said, okay. I'll go too. Jiang Qin's ears were sharp and immediately asked, Mr. Fang, where are you eating? Were you eating with? Do you have a woman with you? Fang Yan sighed and said, tell me the address. I'll come and find you after dinner. No. You haven't told me who the woman next to you is? Is she beautiful? Won't you see it in a while? Fang Yan said snappily, if you don't say it, I'll hang up. At Dynasty KTV. Hurry up and come over. Jiang Qin said. Hanging up the phone of this annoying little girl, Fang Yan looked at Xia Ji sitting opposite and asked, you really decided to go singing? With a group of little brats? Yes. Xia Ji nodded seriously. All of a sudden, I want to go to KTV to sing. Would it be interesting to go to KTV and sing my own songs? It's like suddenly wanting to eat fried chicken and drink beer, braised chicken wings and pickled fish? Fang Yan asked. Yes. Xia Ji nodded very firmly. After a pause, he asked curiously, who is Dear? What a cute name. When Fang Yan took out his cell phone, Xia Ji inadvertently glanced at it. Chapter 199. Picking up a fallen leaf, looking up at the overlapping of the old and the new green leaves peeking out from the tip ignored by the breeze, the flowers bloom and hesitate wandering alone waiting for you, waiting for you, waiting for everything. Yuan Lin held the microphone and sang a new campus group's classical song Wing Chun, emotionally. Her voice was clear and her face was round and moist, giving people a feeling of elegance and gentleness. Singing such a lyrical song with a full mood was very interesting. At the end of the song there was a warm applause in the room. Yuan Lin threw the microphone away, turned directly to look at Jiang Qin and asked, Mr. Fang is coming? Yes, Jiang Qin nodded and said. He's not coming alone. I just heard you say that there's a girl with him? Yuan Lin asked very gossipy. Oh, he's a teacher, how can there be a girl with him? I asked him who it is but he didn't want to tell me. He said that he would see her soon. Jiang Qin waved his fist angrily. When he comes, I must teach him a lesson. That's right. Yuan Lin agreed very seriously. How dangerous is it to take a girl out to eat supper so late at night? He doesn't know how to be safe. Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin and asked doubtfully, who are you worried about? I'm worried about Mr. Fang, said Yuan Lin. His kung fu is so good, what can the girl do to him? Of course, what did he do to the girl? You're worried about the wrong person, okay? Okay. I'm worried about the wrong person. Yuan Lin giggled. She put her arms around Jiang Qin's neck and asked with a smile, are you jealous? I'm not. Jiang Qin's pretty face suddenly turned pink. Why should I be jealous? What does he have to do with me? Why should I be jealous for him? You're kidding. You still deny it. Yuan Lin pointed at Jiang Qin's face and said, you're so red, how dare you say you're not jealous? I have a guilty conscience. Yuan Xiaolin, I'll strangle you to death. Help. Yuan Lin dodged. One raised her hand to pinch him while the other raised her hand to block. The two young and cute girls rolled around on the sofa. The boys greedily and shyly watched from afar, while the girls followed suit. The atmosphere in the private room was lively and cheerful. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin fooled around for a while before getting up to tidy up his clothes. Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin and said, Yuan Xiaolin, I know what you're thinking. Not to be outdone, Yuan Lin said, sweetheart, I know exactly what you're thinking. You know, you've exposed more than me. This is an above-board matter. I'm magnanimous and I won't be like some despicable people who sabotage things from behind. Are you referring to some despicable people secretly blacklisting other people's phone numbers? Yuan Xiaolin. Jiang Qin angrily shouted. Yuan Lin proudly smiled and said, say it. I'm listening. Tonight we have to be united, said Jiang Qin. By helping me you're also helping yourself. Our muzzles must be united against external enemies. When there's an enemy invasion. Do you have any objection? Not at all. The two girls high-fived each other and said with a smile, happy cooperation. When Fang Yan pushed the door and came in, he saw many acquaintances in the private room. The girls were led by Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were said to be very popular in school. The boys were Nong Per and the others whom Fang Yan had met last time. Little Fatty, who had wrestled with Fang Yan and spat out the wine in his stomach as a hidden weapon because he used too much force, was also there. Seeing Fang Yan come in, the students immediately got up and greeted him. A girl who was singing also paused the music. The private room, which was lively and noisy just now, suddenly quieted down. Everyone looked at Fang Yan with a smile in their eyes and kept a distance. In the last bar incident, Fang Yan's performance was too flashy and strong. While making them fear him, he also won the respect of these students. It was also because of the incident with Brother Wolf that they did not dare to go to the complicated bar, but came to the more formal KTV to sing. Mr. Fang. Mr. Fang, long time no see. Mr. Fang, sing a song for us? Fang Yan waved his hand and said with a smile, you continue to play, don't worry about me. Fang Yan turned and pointed to Xiaji behind him and said, come, let me introduce you to a new friend. Xia? A girl screamed and shouted. Fang Yan shook his head with a wry smile and said, it seems that I don't need to introduce. Originally, everyone had some doubts about Xia Chen's identity, thinking that she was just a woman who looked like a big star Xia Chen. One had to know that after the glamorous Queen Fan Bingbing became popular, the National Immigration Administration would find hundreds of Fan Bingbing in their passport photos every year. Besides, how could Xia Chen come to such a place? Hearing Fang Yan's words, everyone was sure that this beautiful new woman was the big star Xia Chen. Oh my god, it's really summer. Wow, Xia Chen, I like you so much. Can you give me an autograph? Xia Chen, I like you so much. Little Fatty's eyes turned red and he actually cried in public. From this, it could be seen how obsessed he was with Xia Chen. Xia Chen patted Little Fatty on the shoulder and said with a smile, thank you for liking me. But a man can't cry so easily. Little Fatty quickly wiped his tears with the back of his meaty hand and said, I won't cry. I won't cry. That's right. You have to learn from your teacher Fang Yan. When Fang Yan entered the door, Xia Chen was standing behind Fang Yan. She could tell that these students were very convinced by Fang Yan. One had to know that the current students were very rebellious. Not every teacher could make them respect and love them so much. Little Fatty opened his mouth but didn't dare to reply. Learn from teacher Fang Yan? He really couldn't learn this. The woman that Fang Yan brought was actually the goddess of the nation, Xia Chen? This caused Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to be extremely shocked and helpless. The two girls looked at each other. Jiang Qin encouraged his companion and said, "Remember, the muzzle of the gun is facing the outside world. Don't worry." Yuan Lin nodded her head in a very loyal manner. "Even if the whole world betrays you, I will still stand with you." "That's a good sister," Jiang Qin said with relief. "Of course. It doesn't matter if she's summer or winter, I'm not familiar with her anyway." Before Yuan Lin finished her words, she saw Xia Chen's eyes glancing at her. She trotted over and said excitedly, "Sister Xia, I really like listening to your heartbeat. I even sang it once just now. Can I sing it for you?" "Yuan Lin." Jiang Qin gritted her teeth. She couldn't wait to rush over and beat Yuan Lin up. This damn girl, she clearly said that they were on the united front. She clearly said that the muzzle of the gun was facing the outside world. In the blink of an eye, she ran over and pretended to be a brainless fan. "Is this how you treat your best friend?" "Really?" Xiachen said happily. "Can we sing together? I also want to sing." Sure. Yuan Lin was really happy. She didn't expect that her initiative to be able to get such a return. Singing her idol's song with her idol was something that any fan would go crazy over, right? Yuan Lin shouted, Lon, quickly give me some heartbeat." "Summer's heartbeat." "Humph, love-struck fool." Jiang Qin stubbornly raised her head. Even if Yuan Lin ran over to the other side, she wouldn't give in so easily. Xia Chen's gaze turned to Jiang Qin, who had been looking at him with hostility. Although he was puzzled, he still smiled and said, "This little girl is so beautiful. Her singing must be very good, right? I want you." The fierceness on Jiang Qin's face instantly disappeared. Her face blushed and she said with some embarrassment, "Actually, it's not bad. It's not as good as yours." "Don't be so modest. Do you know how to sing Heartbeat?" "Yes." Jiang Qin nodded. This Heartbeat was once one of the top 10 golden songs of the year. It was very popular. The sad tone, beautiful lyrics, and moving pictures were deeply loved by young people. It was also a must-listen song for Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to go to KTV. However, ever since he found out that the female companion brought by Fang Yan was Xia Chen, why did it sound so weird? "Then let's sing together, okay?" Xia Chen looked at Jiang Qin and asked. Jiang Qin hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Okay." "Okay." Xia Chen couldn't help but laugh and teased, "So reluctant." A familiar melody sounded. Fatty took the initiative to give a microphone to Xia Chen. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin shared a microphone. There was no other way. There were only 2 microphones in a private room. "The rubber you borrowed and didn't return, the ponytail you fly when you walk, the happy smile you have when you eat, the cake you pout and get angry at me, every heartbeat seems to be because of you." Jiang Qin's voice was sharp and high, piercing through the sky. Her lung capacity was very good. Yuan Lin's voice was clear and transparent, mixed with a little laziness unique to a young girl, just like Mo One Wei when she was young. Xia Chen was the original singer of this song, and she was a student of the Academy of Music. She had also gone abroad to study music. Her true voice and fake voice naturally changed, and her breathing was smooth. She had an excellent voice and strong singing skills. The cooperation between the 3 of them could be said to be perfect. After singing the first part, Xia Chen held the microphone and didn't say anything. He quietly listened as Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin finished singing this song, which was refreshing and soothing in the beginning, but sad and sorrowful in the end. At the end of the song, the applause was like thunder. Xia Chen also applauded. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other. Both of them were a little excited. They could feel that both of them had performed very well today. This should be their best performance of this song. There was nothing they could do. The original singer was sitting next to them. If they didn't sing well, wouldn't they be laughed at? They didn't want to be outdone. Xia Chen looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and asked with a smile, "Do you like singing?" "I like it." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin nodded repeatedly. They loved singing too much. They sang when they walked, sang when they drew, and even secretly put headphones in their ears to listen to songs in class that they didn't like. "Then have you ever thought about becoming a real singer?" Xia asked. Chapter 200. A real singer? Everyone stared at Xia Chen dumbfounded. What did she mean? Did she want Jiang Qin and Xia Chen to become superstars like her? The boys' faces were full of excitement and joy, as if they were about to witness the people around them become influential figures that would attract the attention of the world in the future. The girls went crazy with envy and jealousy. Why did Xia Chen choose Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin? Why didn't she choose us? I'm also very cute and I sing very well. Just because those two guys had a good relationship with Fang Yan, as a close friend or girlfriend of Fang Yan, Xiaqin treated them differently and took care of them more? This was unfair. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other, and the eyes of the two little girls flickered. Yuan Lin looked at Xiaqin and asked, Sister Xiaqin, are you saying that we should become singers? Yes. Xiaqin nodded seriously. He wasn't joking at all. Can we really do it? Jiang Qin was still a little unconfident. We all hummed when we had nothing to do and we don't know any singing skills. There are no skills to learn. But the voice and the quality of the sound are innate. Xia said. When I heard you two sing just now, I was really amazed. Jiang Qin's lung capacity is very good. If you can practice more, I believe that there will be no high notes that will be difficult for you. In time, maybe our country of Wuxia will have another dolphin sound princess that will shock the whole world. Yuan Lin's voice was clear and transparent, like a glass of bubbling lemonade. It was sour and had the lazy feeling of a summer afternoon. This kind of sound was very recognizable. Most importantly, the two of your voices have a kind of, how should I describe it? I think the two of you must have a very good relationship, right? They were clearly two completely different voices, but they actually fused together perfectly, forming a new and intoxicating and influential voice. Xiaqin looked at Fang Yan and said, I think it's a pity that they don't sing. Fang Yan waved his hand with a smile and said, It's not a pity if they sing or not. I don't have the right to say anything. I'm their teacher, not their dad. Yuan Lin grabbed Fang Yan's arm and shook it. Then she said coquettishly, Dad, please give me your opinion. Should we go karaoke? Do you want to go singing? Jiang Qin also looked at Fang Yan with a burning gaze, hoping that he could point out a way. Fang Yan gently sighed and said with a serious expression, I'm not joking with you. This matter is very important. It will determine the direction of your future development, and what kind of mark your entire life will leave on this world. You should think about it carefully and listen to your heart. What do you want to do, then work hard to fight for it. If you want to become a teacher, then start studying hard from now on. If you want to paint, then practice more. If you want to sing, the opportunity is right in front of you. Go back and find a way to convince your parents to agree, and fight for your own choice. Even if you fail, you won't have any regrets. Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, Having a choice is 100 times happier than being forced to choose. A teacher not only imparted knowledge in the classroom, but also taught students the principles of life outside the classroom. It was related to the lives of two girls. Fang Yan would not easily make a decision for them. However, he would use his life wisdom to tell them how to think and how to choose next. There was an old saying in Wuxia, people leave their names behind and geese leave their voices behind. Life was short. Some people lived a mediocre life. Some people stood at the top of their fields and were dazzling. Some people chose to live a stable and happy life. Some people chose to fight the wind and waves and read thousands of sails. If you chose a different path, there would be different scenery along the way. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked hesitant. It was difficult for them to make up their minds. It was difficult for any girl to refuse the temptation of jumping from an ordinary little girl to a global superstar. After all, it was the big star Xia who invited them. As long as she was willing to support and help them, they would be on the fast track to fame. Paying respects to famous teachers, releasing records, holding concerts. The most important thing was that they really liked singing. Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin and said with some uncertainty, I'm a little scared. I heard that the entertainment circle is very dark. Who dares? Xia sneered. The word, who dares, was really domineering on her gentle and elegant pretty face. It is an indisputable fact that the entertainment circle hides filth. Some people want to become famous overnight, some people want to take a shortcut, some people are insatiable so they choose to pay. But if you can hold your bottom line, who can force you? Besides, since I invited you to sing, I will naturally keep you safe. Whoever dares to touch a hair of yours, I will make him pay a heavy price. Of course, I don't mean that you must come in. Teacher Fang Yan is right. You must make your own choice. Xia looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin with a smile and said, If you like singing, then come and sing. I do. Yuan Lin said firmly. I like singing. Jiang Qin, who was usually more domineering, couldn't make up his mind now. He looked at Fang Yan and said, I don't know if my parents will agree. Actually, I'm willing. Xia smiled and said, I can't help you with that. There are some difficulties that you have to overcome yourself. For example, the problem of communicating with your parents. Fang Yan looked at Xia and asked uncertainly, They are still so young, can they really do it? Of course not. Xia said. Do you know the 12 music workshops for women? Xia asked. Yes. Fang Yin nodded. It was an orchestra that performed Huaxia's classical music in the form of pop music. Their works, Glory, Lulan Maiden, High Mountains and Flowing Water, and other works were very classic and were very popular around the world. Fang Yin would sometimes listen to their music when he was practicing Tai Chi. Their music was light and passionate, and often gave him a lot of inspiration. This is a very great group. They used pure music to conquer Japan, Korea, Europe and the United States. They used Huaxia's classical culture and music elements to the world. What they are doing is also what I want to do. For a long time, it was the celebrities from other countries who came to conquer Huaxia. Although they were far away on the other side of the world, as long as they released a record or a single, it would spread all over the world. Hollywood movies, European and American music, Japanese anime, Korean idol dramas and idol groups. Whether we admit it or not, this is a kind of cultural invasion and also a kind of cultural conquest. And they also rely on this kind of cultural victory to bring great influence and profits in Huaxia. They use this to conquer us. What do we use to counterattack them? Can our music counterattack Europe and America? Can our cartoons counterattack the Japanese? Can our idol drama and idol team counterattack Korea? Can our movie be a global hit? Summer, who had always given people a gentle impression, suddenly became sharp. She looked at everyone with a soul-stirring aura. This was ambition. This was spirit. Fang Yin thought in his heart. Once a person had spirit, their temperament would undergo a completely different change. It turned out that the legendary queen of purity and low-profile heavenly queen was not really quiet and low-profile. Her heart was filled with Huaxia's heritage and the struggle for culture. Fang Yin felt that such a woman was worthy of admiration. Just as worthy of admiration as himself. Sometimes 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals 10. In the long run, our cultural situation will be even more difficult. When those great sages who are closer to the core of Huaxia's traditional culture, when those knowledgeable scholars and artists who stick to their original hearts grow old and leave, the younger generation who grew up watching One Piece and drinking Coca-Cola, can they bear the responsibility of revitalizing our culture? Can they use our culture to make a name for themselves? Can they use the totem of Huaxia's dragon to conquer the world? If a singer also has an ideal, this is my ideal. So, we have to be prepared in advance. We have to reserve talents for this. I want to add a lot of Huaxia elements to the new album because of this consideration. However, it is far from enough to rely on me alone or a few people. We need a large number of such talents, such musicians or real artists. Summer looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said, if you refuse, everything I said has nothing to do with you. You read, fall in love, work, get married and have children. Maybe achieve extraordinary achievements in a certain field. But if you nod, then the two of you. No, the three of us will become a unified whole. I won't rush you out to make money and I won't rush you out to make a record and hold a concert. Don't even think about it. I will send you to learn vocal music, pronunciation, pipa, eru, guzheng, bamboo flute, dulcimer. You will work very, very hard, so tired that you want to give up every second, want to cry every minute. But, if you can persevere, if you complete all these courses, when you are full of skills, when you are protected by Huaxia culture, I think it won't be too difficult for you to trample the world under your feet, right? Summer's expression was full of confidence and satisfaction. Her eyes were shining like the bright moon in the sky. She looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and asked in an extremely bewitching voice, are you willing to become the gods of this world? Chapter 201. It had to be said that Summer was a very clever lobbyist. She had already made great achievements in the field of music and received honors that attracted the attention of the world. She was the goddess and idol of the students present and the object of their worship. She personally stood up to speak, which was very persuasive and tempting. More importantly, she painted a beautiful blueprint for these little girls, drawing a big cake that people couldn't help but swallow when they thought of it. Carrying forward the traditional culture of Huaxia and planting the dragon flag in every corner of the world, this was the ultimate dream that no young person would refuse. Standing in the madness of the world and becoming a god in the eyes of countless people. This sounded so stupid, but why was it so exciting to think about it? Your song can be heard by everyone with ears, and your beauty can be seen by everyone with eyes. How much prestige and achievement was this? Hearing this explanation, not to mention the two girls, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, couldn't control themselves. Even Fang Yin felt. Should he also consider developing in the entertainment circle? A Tai Chi master who could sing, this would be unique in the entertainment circle, right? I'm not afraid of hard work. Yuan Lin said with a firm look, I can play the piano, I can draw. I'm willing to learn Gujing and Arrow. As long as I can learn, I'm willing to learn. I want to learn too. Jiang Qin said. Whether you can become a star or not, it's always good to learn more things. The other students also wanted to learn and also wanted to follow Summer to save the world. However, they hesitated several times and didn't know how to speak. They were not familiar with Fang Yen, and they were even less familiar with Summer. Why should Summer help them? Fatty's brain suddenly lit up and said, I want to sing Echo for Summer. Help me order Echo. Echo was also a classic old song of Summer. Just now, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin sang Heartbeat, which made Summer look at them in a different light. If he performed well and the goddess saw his strength, would she also say to him, I think you are very talented, come and learn singing from me? Order me a song, I want to sing Return. I like Summer's Jiang'an the most. Help me order Summer's Jiang'an. Me too, me too. Everyone dreams of being a star. Fang Yen sighed. There were fewer and fewer people like him who were willing to be ordinary and selfless in school. Fang Yen could not help but praise himself more than 30 times. Just as the melody of Echo started, the sound suddenly stopped. The television screen went dark and the lights went out. The private room was pitch black. Everyone cried out in alarm. A power outage? Someone asked. Don't move, Fang Yen shouted. Sit there and don't move. The students panicked. Their first reaction was that it was a power outage, but Fang Yen didn't think so. The small window in the middle of the private room's door had been sealed shut, allowing a tiny amount of light to penetrate through the gap under the door. The out-of-tune singing of I'll Love You Even If I Die could still be heard coming from the private room next door. This was an attack. What was even more terrifying was that the killer might have already entered the private room and become one of them. Obviously, the power and lights in the private room were cut off from the inside. The light outside and the private room were not affected at all. A person could sneak into the private room and cut off the power inside without anyone noticing. How strong was he? Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin brought more than 10 students to sing, so they asked for a big private room. As for how many students there were, Fang Yen didn't count them carefully after he came in. What was worse was that after there was no light in the private room, all the students were either standing or sitting in different directions. Fang Yen had no way to find the attacker among the black shadow. Mr. Fang? Jiang Qin, who was sitting next to Fang Yen, wanted to ask what had happened and why Fang Yan's voice was so nervous and anxious. Don't speak, Fang Yen shouted in a deep voice. So no one dared to speak again. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. Some were sitting, some were standing, and some were maintaining a fixed posture, not moving at all. This private room had become an independent, dark, and dangerous world. Some people were breathing rapidly, some people were swallowing saliva, and even the heartbeats of the people in the room could be heard. The atmosphere was strange and terrible. Fang Yen didn't say anything. He just sat there and didn't move. Fang Yen tried to relax his body and mind as much as possible. The way of Tai Chi paid attention to nature. Only by being natural could one spy on the way of heaven and the growth of all things. Fang Yen felt his existence. He breathed naturally and his heartbeat was light and slow as usual. His body was relaxed as if he was at home. However, it was also because he breathed naturally and his heartbeat was light and slow as usual that Fang Yen found him suspicious. In such an environment, how could ordinary students, including the big star Xia Xia, maintain such a normal mood and mentality? He didn't move. Fang Yen didn't move either. This was like a duel between two peerless masters. It was a competition of patience and timing. A chance to kill with one blow. There was a saying in Buddhism that one flower, one world, one leaf, one Bodhi. In this small private room, it would become the battlefield for Fang Yen and an unknown master to fight. Fang Yan's opponent was very patient, but Fang Yen was more patient. Because he knew that the longer it dragged on, the better it would be for him. After all, he was the one being attacked and this was his home ground. As for the killer, no matter how brilliant he was, he couldn't see the light of day. The killer's heartbeat stopped. His breathing also disappeared. Fang Yen knew that he was going to make a move. Martial artists would make some abnormal movements before they made a move, and they couldn't help but adjust their physical state. This killer was no exception. Swoosh! A silver light flashed. A knife cut through the darkness and stabbed straight at Fang Yan's eyes. The knife energy was overflowing, and the killing intent was overwhelming. Before the blade arrived, the strong wind had already cut through people's clothes, making people feel burning pain. It was like being roasted by a long column of fire. The smooth flow of air was distorted and crackling sounds could be heard. Fang Yen expected him to make a move, but he didn't expect him to make a move so quickly. Just as he reacted, the person and the knife were already in front of him. Fang Yen closed his eyes. That intense light and sharp murderous aura had already blinded his eyes. Ninja. He was a ninja. Only a ninja would have such a ghostly speed. Only a ninja could sneak into the private room under Fang Yan's eyes without him noticing. Moreover, from the strength he displayed, this guy was at least a middle ninja. It was also very likely that he was a superior ninja. The superior ninja was also known as the wisdom ninja. They could make battle plans and control the overall situation, and they could kill the target single-handedly. The training of a ninja was extremely harsh. It could even be described as inhumane. It was very difficult to become a qualified ninja. However, there was a saying in the ninja world, it was hard to find a superior ninja in 1,000. From this, it could be seen that even in Japan, a superior ninja was a rare thing. Fang Yen didn't have time now, otherwise he would have considered whether he should be lucky or unlucky. Why did he encounter such a precious superior ninja that could be exhibited as a treasure? Fang Yen leaned against the wall and there were people sitting on both sides. Whether it was Jiang Qin or Xia Xia, he didn't want them to be hurt. Unable to avoid, he picked up the wine bottle in his hand to block. Chuck. It was not a crisp sound, nor did it burst. It was like the sound of a knife cutting chives. The long knife in the ninja's hand lightly cut the thick glass wine bottle in Fang Yan's hand, and without any obstruction continued to cut Fang Yan's neck. The speed was too fast, the wine in the wine bottle that was split into two didn't even have time to flow out. The hair was cut and iron was cut like mud. Just a so-so. Sure kill. Fang Yan's feet bounced, his body rotated in an arc, and rushed toward the long knife, as if he took the initiative to face the knife with his neck. Whoosh. The knife missed. The long knife slashed on the sofa chair in the KTV box, and with a crisp sound, a deep hole immediately appeared on the sofa. But no one had discovered it yet. Fang Yan's body was lying in the arms of the ninja, and he could feel his cold and fierce breath. He turned his wrist and used heaven and earth upside down, and reached out to hit the major acupuncture points of the ninja's arm holding the knife. As long as one of the acupuncture points was buckled, the ninja's arm would lose the ability to move. Or in other words, instantly paralyzed and disabled. Taking the long knife with bare hands, whoosh, the ninja withdrew the long knife, and his body retreated, and disappeared in the darkness again. Fast. Incredibly fast. Whether it was the killer who made the knife or the counterattack of Fang Yen, there was almost no gap between the two of them. From the beginning to the end of the attack, it was probably less than a second, just a blink of an eye. Until this time, sitting on the left and right sides of Fang Yen, Jiang Qin and Xia Xia felt the dangerous murderous aura. Jiang Qin's body trembled and his fists clenched. She wanted to shout but she couldn't move. She didn't understand what happened, but she knew that the current environment made her feel afraid. Xia Xia's heart was also in her throat. She sat very close to Fang Yen so she could see the black shadow approaching. Although the killer only used one knife from beginning to end, the white light that appeared out of nowhere still illuminated her eyes. She didn't speak nor did she move. She completely handed her safety to Fang Yen. Because she knew that if she moved, she would die. Whoever moved would die. Fang Yen sat back in his original position, and the ninja retreated to a corner of the box. Everyone kept their previous positions and they looked around with wide eyes, but they saw nothing. Silence returned to the private room as if nothing had happened. Chapter 202. Ninjas weren't immortals or ghosts. They were also human beings. Like spies and killers, they were just a more special profession compared to teachers, students, programmers, and advertising planners. Beginner ninjas were genin, and those who knew strategy and assassination were jonins. That was all. As long as they were human beings, they could be killed. Therefore, Fang Yen wasn't afraid. He knew that the ninja's target was him, but he was also worried that if the ninja found that he couldn't kill the target, would he vent his anger on the innocent students in the private room? Fang Yan's worry wasn't superfluous. Just as he was thinking about this, a sharp sword energy slashed toward Jiang Qin sitting next to him. The private room was like a sealed black box. Only murderous intent could be smelled, but no light could be seen. Obviously, the ninja changed the way of attack or smeared some black material on the blade to make it lose its bright color. The blade and the darkness merged into one, becoming a ghost that harvested lives. Fang Yen closed his eyes and sat on the sofa without moving. The killer chose to attack Jiang Qin, which made him calm down. This didn't mean that he didn't care about Jiang Qin. It was because he knew that the ninja didn't really kill people. If he had wanted to kill these students, he could have chosen to attack the students who were far away from Fang Yan or the children who were sitting next to him. Why would he choose to attack Jiang Qin, who was in close proximity to Fang Yan? He wanted to create chaos and shake Fang Yan's heart. When Fang Yan saved him in a hurry, he was looking for an opportunity to attack Fang Yan. He just wanted to kill Fang Yan. This was also the result that Fang Yan was happy to accept. When masters fought, it wasn't just about the strength of the two sides, but also the ability to judge the situation and the wisdom to fight. Fang Yan didn't intercept the ninja's sword. He picked up a bottle of beer in front of him and threw it toward the place where the murderous intent was the strongest. At the same time, his body jumped up and rushed behind the bottle. Crack! The long saber once again cut open the bottle. Then, without any hesitation, he stabbed at Fang Yan, who was behind the bottle. If it hit, Fang Yan would definitely be pierced through by this attack. However, Fang Yan didn't seem to be aware of this danger. He just rushed towards the long black saber in a daze. He was just like an idiot, boorish fool. If one could see it with the naked eye, one would find that Fang Yan's sprinting speed was very fast. Like a spirit fox and a cunning rabbit, like thunder rumbling in the 9 continents, lightning flashing for 9,000 li. Moreover, his body seemed to be running in a straight line, but this straight line was just an illusion. With a single step, his silhouette split apart. One was real and the other was real. It was hard to tell which one was real. Drunken Crane Rides the Wind. This was one of the Fang clan's Tai Chi footwork. It was derived from the original 3 crazy steps by the famous drunkard in the family when he was drunk. The body split into 3 and the 3 gave birth to millions. It was hard to fathom. Many people suffered a great loss when fighting against it. This was also the reason why no one dared to look down on the old drunkard even though he was in dire straits. Who knew if this was an alternative cultivation method that he used to isolate his spirit and self-destruct his physique? How could anyone look down on the #1 martial artist in the past? Fang Yan had a close relationship with the old drunkard since he was young. Even after the old drunkard's temperament had changed, he could still talk to him. This was also the reason why he could learn this drunken crane riding the wind. In this world, there were only 3 people who knew this drunken crane riding the wind. It wasn't that people didn't want to learn it, but those who knew it didn't want to teach it. Needless to say, the old drunkard only cared about wine. He didn't care about family affairs. Every day he lived in a drunken stupor. He spent more time sober than drunk. The other 2 people who learned this drunken crane riding the wind were Yi Ro and Fang Yan. Yi Ro also liked wine and she could drink a lot without getting drunk. Every time the old drunkard wanted someone to drink with him, Yi Ro was the most suitable person. The 2 of them got to know each other through drinking. It seemed that the relationship between Yi Ro and the old drunkard was even deeper than the relationship between Fang Yan and the old drunkard. Who asked Fang Yan to be unwilling to drink with the old drunkard? Yi Ro knew this drunken crane riding the wind, but even if they knew she knew it, who would dare to ask her to learn it? Fang Yan also knew it. He had thought of teaching this footwork to Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan. But the result wasn't ideal. They knew the 3 crazy steps like the back of their hands, and it was effortless for them to move. But when this drunken crane riding the wind was used, they would either fall on the spot or be like a fat pig facing a skinny sheep. They would stumble and there was no power at all. Drunken crane riding the wind. The crane needed to be drunk first before it could find the feeling of riding the wind. Drunk wasn't really drunk, but intoxicated. It was forgetting, it was muddle-headed, and it was part of nature. So, the ninja slashed at Fang Yan. Missed. So, he retracted his blade at lightning speed. Slashed again. Missed again. So, the 3rd slash. Still missed. So, blade chi filled the air and killing intent filled the room. But no matter how the ninja slashed and slashed, he couldn't touch Fang Yan's body at all. He couldn't add a leaf and he couldn't drop a feather. This was the highest realm of Tai Chi, and also the true meaning of drunken crane riding the wind. The blade didn't have blade light, but it had killing intent. Sword chi was also chi, and with chi there was strength. Fang Yan's body was like a leaf or a feather. Before the blade arrived, the chi was released, and Fang Yan's body had already dodged in advance. If you slapped a balloon with your palm, the balloon would have already flown away before your palm hit it. It was the same principle as drunken crane riding the wind. One move first, one step ahead. Taking the initiative and seizing the opportunity. The ninja slashed and retracted his blade extremely quickly. Countless blade chi surrounded his body, making it hard for Fang Yan to advance. But an empty blade hurt the spirit and it also hurt the strength. It wasn't a solution to keep slashing like this. As a ninja who could appear and disappear unpredictably, he almost misunderstood that he had met someone of the same kind who was more skilled than him. His blade was like a torrential rain, but why couldn't he keep up with Fang Yan's rhythm? Fang Yan's body extended and he flashed behind the ninja, dodging 37 consecutive slashes, and punched at the ninja's unguarded heart. Boom, a strong wind blew, and Fang Yan clenched his fists so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. This punch was as heavy as a mountain, and when it attacked, it was like a huge meteorite pressing down on the ninja's chest. The ninja turned around and spun 360 degrees to attack. Fang Yan didn't dodge and his fist of flesh and blood destroyed heaven and earth. The ninja also didn't dodge and the blade of his long blade cut through the air, destroying everything. Fang Yan's fist sped up again. The fist was shorter than the blade, but it arrived before the blade. As long as his fist hit the ninja's body, penetrating his body, smashing his chest, and sending his body flying, the ninja's blade probably wouldn't be able to hit him. Whoosh, a gust of wind blew past. The fist missed. The blade disappeared. The person also disappeared. A shadow flashed at the door and the room was quiet again. In this narrow space the two of them fought fiercely, but they didn't hurt the students at all. In their eyes, this mustard seed space was as majestic as Mount Meru, and they couldn't see the end of it. The door of the room was pushed open, and a waitress in uniform stood at the door and asked, "What are you doing in this room? Why don't you turn on the lights?" The light from outside shone in, and everyone in the room felt like they had seen the light of day again. The heavy stuffiness in his chest disappeared, and so did the fear that made him feel like he was about to go crazy. They didn't know what had happened, but they knew it must have been something bad. It was like a ghost, a real ghost, mingling with them. They couldn't identify it and they couldn't escape, so they could only stay in the room with the ghost. "Turn on the lights," Fang Yan explained. "We're playing a little game, clap, clap, clap." Before Fang Yan finished explaining, the waitress had taken the initiative to turn on all the lights in the room. She stared at Fang Yan and the students in the room with unkind eyes. After seeing that their clothes were intact and there was nothing unusual on their bodies, her face softened a little, but her voice was still cold as she warned, "We have a rule here that pornography, gambling, and drugs are prohibited in the room. Once found, we will immediately call the police." Pornography, gambling, and drugs? Fang Yan smiled bitterly. What kind of people did she think they were? When the waitress saw the situation in the room, her face became extremely embarrassed again. She quickly walked to the middle of the room, pointed at the marble coffee table that was cut in two, and asked in a sharp voice, "What's going on? How did the coffee table become like this? What are you playing? Oh my God, the sofa is also cracked. You also cut the sofa. And the microphone and the wall?" Fang Yan waved his hand to stop her from continuing to shout and said, "We will pay. All compensation." Getting the answer she wanted, the waitress tactfully shut up. The club manager also came, took a computer to calculate, and asked Fang Yan to compensate them 25,000 yuan. Of course, the original thing was not worth this price, but they had a price list in the club. This price was naturally several times more expensive than the actual price. Yuan Lin took out her wallet and wanted to pay the bill, but Fang Yan handed over his bank card. Ninja came because of him, how could he let a little girl pay for him? After dealing with things here, Fang Yan looked at Yuan Lin and Jiang Qin and said, "You two go back and think about it, don't make a decision easily. I think, since Miss Ya values you, she is willing to give you more time to think. It's very late, you should go back and rest early." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at Fang Yan, nodded silently and left. Especially Jiang Qin, she guessed something happened in the room, but she was smart enough not to ask. When the students left, Fang Yan looked at Xia and said, "Do you need me to take you back? Are you a gentleman?" Xia asked. Fang Yan thought for a moment and said, "I am a master's." On the marble floor under their feet, there were spots of bright red blood. Chapter 203. The night wind was getting cold. She was only wearing a small black dress in the summer, and it was obvious that she couldn't resist the chill of the city. In particular, the intense and exciting things that happened in the private room just now made her body soak in a layer of cold sweat. Now that her body was cooling down and her sweat was cold, she felt even colder. She grabbed the white shawl on her shoulders with both hands, as if it would warm her up a little. "Take a taxi back?" Fang Yan saw her embarrassed look and said softly. "Take 2 steps. Xia said. She didn't have a RV property in this city, so she was picked up by a driver when she went out. When she came out of Sky One, she didn't call the driver to arrange a car. Now she wouldn't call the driver out of her house. The driver also had his own life. Fang Yin walked on the right side of the wind so that he could help her block the wind a little. He said, I also thought of taking off my coat and giving it to you, but I'm afraid that you'll refuse and make me feel awkward. You haven't tried, how do you know I'll refuse? Xia asked. Fang Yin looked at Xia Ji from the side and saw a pair of bright and gentle beautiful eyes. This girl's eyes are so beautiful. After thinking about it, Fang Yin found a problem. In fact, most beautiful women had beautiful eyes. Qini Tian, Jiang Qin, Yuan Lin, and even Lu Chaoga. The eyes were the window to the human heart. If a person's eyes were ugly, then no matter how exquisite the woman's facial features were, she could only be called a beauty with personality. Thus, Fang Yin took off her black coat. Xia Ji didn't hold back and naturally took it and draped it over her shoulders. I feel much better, Xia Ji said with a smile. I often take the coat from the boy when I'm acting. This is the first time something like this has happened in real life? Is this also acting? Fang Yin asked. Xia Ji frowned slightly as he looked at Fang Yin and said, Fang Yin, I found that you are very aggressive. Fang Yin smiled bitterly and shook her head. It's probably because I'm not in a good mood. Can you tell me now? Who is he? Xia asked as he looked at Fang Yin with a burning gaze. I don't know, Fang Yin said. He knew Summer would ask this question. He could send away Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, he could send away those students, but it wasn't that easy to deal with Xia Chen. You don't know either? Xia Keek's pretty eyebrows furrowed again. Although his goal is to attack you, he's also trying to hurt me while attacking you. Do you need help? Fang Yin glanced at Xia Ji and said, Yes. I don't need it either. I need you to help me find him. I don't need you to do anything, Fang Yin said. He's very strong. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices. Understood. Summer nodded. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin are both good seedlings. That's their business. If you really like them, you can have a good talk with them. Fang Yin said, I won't make decisions for their lives. Because I can't afford it. But I can see that they trust you very much. Because I'm their teacher. A teacher who thinks he's pretty good. You have to help me with the new album. I need to think about that. Xia Chen was a little anxious and said, Fang Yin, you're really making me suffer like this. I can find other Tai Chi experts, I can find a replacement. However, I clearly know that there's a better choice and I clearly know that you're the most suitable. After seeing you play Tai Chi, how can I choose someone else? Fang Yin thought for a moment and said, It's quite difficult. If you don't show up, I'll feel that my work isn't the most perfect. It's the same feeling before the preparation, and it's the same feeling after the work comes out. Even if I think about it many years later, it might still feel like this. I'm a Virgo, and the thing I'm most afraid of is imperfection and regret in life. Promise me you can make any conditions, okay? Okay. Fang Yin said. What conditions? Conditions are conditions. I can make any conditions. Fang Yin said. Before the ninja entered the house, Xia Chen's words really touched Fang Yin a lot. He talked about calligraphy, tea ceremony, guixue, tradition, and education. In fact, it was also to instill the profound culture of Huaxia to the students, so that these students could pass it on from generation to generation and carry it forward. Xia Chen was a star. She sang and acted, but she was also doing the same thing as Fang Yin. Moreover, her influence was far greater than that of Fang Yin. You agreed? Xia Chen asked in surprise. Sort of. Fang Yin said. It's just a scene. I don't think too many people will pay attention to it. This way I'll solve my problem of becoming famous. Fang Yin, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Xia Chen said with a smile. She waved her hand and a taxi stopped beside her. Xia Ji opened the door and got in. When Fang Yin wanted to follow, the door of the taxi closed with a bang. Don't you need me to send you back? Fang Yin asked with a smile. I'm not that delicate. Xia Ji said with a smile. Go back and rest. There's no need to make another trip. Xia Chen waved at Fang Yin and the taxi drove away. Fang Yin smiled and walked in the opposite direction. Under the moonlight, in the cold wind, a boy with a cold expression was practicing his swordsmanship. In the courtyard there was an ancient locust tree. The boy stabbed his sword at the tree with a thick trunk. Bah, bah, bah. One sword after another, Qin Yahawu had already stabbed out 1,226 times. The same posture, the same angle, and even the same strength. Every night he would stab 3,000 times. This was the request of his father, the Qinya Ministry of War. The world found it strange. The Chinya family was famous for their saber, and Chinya Zhozhua had used the Beichen One blade to bring the Japanese saber technique to a height that the world paid attention to. However, his descendant, the Chinya Ministry of War, was good at using the sword. Everyone felt that there was something wrong with this person's head. If he didn't inherit such a good saber technique, why did he enter a field that he wasn't good at? While everyone was in doubt, the Chinya Ministry of War traveled to the 17 islands of the East Ocean with his sword, challenging the Idong Sword House, the Kaga Shadowless Sword, and the Itamoto Berserker sect. 3 battles, 3 victories, and 1 fell swoop to take the crown of the #1 swordsman in Japan. One had to know that the Idong Sword House's master Idong Jun was previously recognized as the #1 swordsman in Japan. The Chinya Ministry of War had defeated him, so he naturally inherited this title. From then on, all doubts disappeared. However, there were still many people who felt strange. What? He used a sword? The saber depends on the strength, the sword is heavy and exquisite. The Chinya Ministry of War stood behind his son and watched. He carefully watched every thrust of Chinya Haomu's sword. Chinya Haomu thrust 1,226 times, and he also watched 1,226 times. Not a single strike was missed, as if each strike was an exquisite sword technique. Dressed in a white robe, his long hair was loose and he stood ramrod straight. The gentle moonlight shone on his face, making his pale complexion look even whiter. There was a kind of divine light in his narrow eyes that made it hard for people to look up at him. Exquisite is born, but it also depends on hard training. 3,000 strikes a day, the same angle, the same speed, and the same strength. After 81 days, this move will become a part of your body. You don't have to think and you don't have time to think. You just use this sword when you strike. Then I only know this one sword? Isn't one sword enough? The Chinya Ministry of War said with a smile. What kind of neck needs 2 slashes to break? Wuxia has Taoism, and Taoists pay attention to the life of all things. However, the true great way of nature is that all things return to one. Wulong can see 18 changes in every strike you make, and Qingyin can see 49 changes. I can see 3,910. Chinya Haomu's hand trembled, and the sword in his hand almost fell out. The godlike experts in his heart, Inoue Wulong and Qingyin, were actually so far behind his father? In the past, I could see at least 9,000 changes. The Chinya Ministry of War's eyes were filled with infinite regret as he said, every additional strike is an illusion of a sword. Of these 3,910 strikes, 3,909 are illusions. When all these illusions disappear, the supreme sword path can be achieved. Chinya Haomu quickly gathered his thoughts, raised his sword again and thrust forward. He said, Father, do you mean that the more Wulong and Qingyin can see, the better, and the less you need to see, the better? No, the less they need to see, the better. It's best if they can only see one strike, the original one. Then Father? Chinya Haomu felt a little dizzy. It would have been fine if his father hadn't taught him, but why did he become more and more confused about what the essence of sword path was? All things in life. All things have not been born, so how can all things return to one? I understand, Chinya Haomu said seriously. A sword is a sword. It's the sword that you thrust out. It's the sword that kills. It's the sword of law. It's 1,000 changes, 1,000 miracles, but the essence won't change. The Chinya Ministry of War's voice was fascinated, and he said, This is why I came to Wuxia. Father, why did you come to Wuxia? Chinya Haomu asked curiously. Wasn't his father here to avenge him? He wanted to beat up that little teacher named Fang Yan, and it would be best if he could cut his neck with a sword. If it wasn't for this reason, why would he immediately make the decision to move his family to China after he returned from a crushing defeat? To practice the sword. The Chinya Ministry of War spat out these 2 words clearly. Chapter 204. To some, there was no end to being despicable. To some, there was no end to swordsmanship. Chiba Hayaburo was the best swordsman in Japan. He was an expert that others could only look up to. However, he still had his own pursuits and goals. He was learning swordsmanship now. One day he would be able to attain supreme swordsmanship. This was his life, the meaning of living. Chiba Haomu stopped his sword and turned to look at Chiba Hayaburo. His eyes were filled with admiration and doubt. Father, why did you come to Wuxia to practice your swordsmanship? A girl's voice came from behind. Chiba Kaori had just taken a shower. She was wearing a traditional Japanese kimono decorated with cherry blossoms. She wore wooden clogs on her feet, revealing her 10 cute toes. Her wet hair draped over her shoulders. Her eyes were gentle and she wore a charming smile on her face. She was a traditional Japanese woman. She was docile and humble, as if she would never disobey her husband. Chiba Hayaburo brought his children to Wuxia and arranged for them to go to their respective places. Chiba Kaori went to Rosefinch Secondary for an exchange program. Meanwhile, Chiba Haomu went to study swordsmanship under his personal guidance. The lives of the siblings were completely different. Chiba Hayaburo doted on Chiba Kaori. He looked at her and said, "Go dry your hair." Chiba Kaori did not reply. Instead she said, "Father, you haven't answered my question." "Because I'm invincible in Japan," Chiba Hayaburo said. "Sailing against the current, one will either advance or fall behind. Everyone knows this. However, you have to sail against the current in order to pursue swordsmanship. An opponent worthy of respect can shorten your comprehension time by 3 to 5 months. An opponent who can defeat you can raise your cultivation level by 3 to 5 years. Father, are you saying that you'll encounter an opponent in Wuxia?" Chiba Kaori asked sensitively. Chiba Hayaburo walked up to Chiba Kaori and carefully combed his daughter's hair. He smiled warmly and said, "Even if you don't want to admit it, Wuxia has thousands of years of accumulation. However, China has thousands of years of history, and there are many reclusive heroes and experts. There should be opponents worthy of respect." Chiba Kaori tilted her head to look at her father's side profile and said, "Father, if you really meet an opponent worthy of respect, will you die?" "Die." Commander Chiba of the army thought about it seriously and said, "Knowing the way in the morning, one can die in the evening." "No," Chiba Kaori said stubbornly, "I don't want you to die." "Then I won't die." Chiba nodded seriously as if he was making a promise. "Then I'm going back to sleep, father," said Chiba Kaori with a charming smile. "We still have morning classes tomorrow." Then he glanced at Chinya Haowu and said, "Little brother, you have to practice well." Chiba Hosake nodded and continued to stab forward with full concentration. One sword after another. Ka! The courtyard door was pushed open. A man dressed in black walked in. He was short, thin, and his head was hidden in his hoodie, making it hard to see what he looked like. Seeing Chiba, who was standing in the yard, the man walked over, bowed and said, "Master." "You're injured?" Chiba Shinobu said. "Yes," the man answered honestly. No matter how good his disguise was, he couldn't deceive his master even if there was no blood on his face or body. "There's a fire in your throat. Ask your master's wife to prescribe you some medicine," Chiba Shinobu said. "Who can hurt you?" "Master, who can hurt you?" "Fang Yan," the man in black answered. Chiba Hosake suddenly turned around and said, "Qing Yin, did you go to see Fang Yan?" Qing Yin was the eldest disciple of Chiba Shinobu. He was originally an IGA ninja. After failing to assassinate Chiba Shinobu, he was impressed by his swordsmanship, so he became his disciple and was willing to be his servant. Chiba Hosake returned from Wuxia with serious injuries because he had a conflict with a teacher in Wuxia. After Qing Yin came to Wuxia, he immediately searched for information about Fang Yan and followed him all the way. He chose to make his move in a KTV box with limited space. "I heard that he defeated Chiba Hosake. I want to test his strength. You want to help Chiba Hosake take revenge?" "Master, please punish me." The man apologized in a low voice. Because the action of lowering his head was too big, it once again affected the injury on his chest. With a muffled groan, he opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood. Chiba Shinobu glanced at him and asked, "What did he use to hurt you?" "His fist." "Did his fist touch you?" "No." Qing Yin replied. Chiba Shinobu walked in front of Chiba Hosake and said, "You keep asking me when this swordsmanship will end." "Yes, father." Chiba Shinobu walked to the side of the locust tree, pointed to its solid trunk and said, "Pierce it." "Father." Chiba Shinobu looked stunned. The blade was not allowed to touch the tree trunk and it was just a stab through the air. How could the tree trunk be pierced? Dripping water can wear a stone, at least let the water drop on the stone, right? He can do it. Chiba Shinobu knew what Chiba Hosake was thinking and said aloud, "Fang Yan." Chiba Hosake gritted his teeth and asked, "Yes." "How strong is he?" Chiba Hosake asked. "He's stronger than you think," Chiba Shinobu said. He injured Chiba Hosake and Qing Yin. "This young man, I'm really looking forward to it." At the end of the 2 Chinese classes in the morning, Fang Yan walked back to the office with his textbook. Seeing that there was a gap in the middle of the page, Fang Yen opened the gap and found an exquisitely folded paper crane lying there. Teacher Fang Yen, you're getting more and more handsome. I like you so much. It was still a row of beautiful handwriting, but it didn't belong to any of the students in the class. Because Fang Yen was good at calligraphy, he was able to memorize the handwriting of every student. As long as he saw the handwriting, he would know who wrote it. It was very accurate and he never missed it. Who is it? Fang Yen was full of doubts. Fang Yen didn't mind being liked by others. Being liked was something to be happy and proud of, but he was worried that it would affect this girl's academic performance. His cell phone on the table suddenly rang. Fang Yen pressed the answer button. It turned out to be a call from Principal Zhang Xiaofeng himself. What's the matter, Principal Zhang? Fang Yen asked. Teacher Fang Yen, are you in the office or outside? Zhang Xiaofeng asked. I just finished my class, Principal. I'm in the office now, Fang Yen said. Come to my office. I have something to discuss with you. Okay, I'll be there. In the principal's office, Zhang Xiaofeng warmly invited Fang Yen to sit down and personally ran to make a cup of good tea for Fang Yen. Fang Yen smiled and held the teacup, saying, What are you doing, Principal Zhang? This kind of thing should be done by us subordinates. How can you let the old leader do it for us? Zhang Xiaofeng waved and said, There are two problems in your words, Fang Yen. Do you know what the two problems are? I really don't know about this. Fang Yen said with a smile. Principal, give me some advice? First, I'm not an old leader. The only one who can be called an old leader of Rosefinch is your grandfather, Mr. Liu. Who in the education field doesn't regard Mr. Liu as their life idol? Principal Zhang is too modest. You are also our old leader. Fang Yen said. Although he knew that Zhang Xiaofeng was trying to build a relationship with him, he was still very excited to hear someone praise his grandfather and regard his grandfather as his life idol. This was the principle of flattery being the best. Second, who made the rule that subordinates must make tea for their superiors? Can't the principal make a cup of tea for the teacher? Anyone could sit in the headmaster's position, but not everyone could do the job of a teacher well. Otherwise, how can there be a difference between a famous teacher and a mediocre teacher? Therefore, you teachers are the treasures of our school, the core strength of our Rosefinch. We old guys can't do anything else, but it's not a problem to do logistics for you, right? Principal is too modest. Fang Yen said with a smile. He thought that if it wasn't because Lu Chaoga bought Rosefinch, if it wasn't because he had a close relationship with Lu Chaoga, perhaps the treasures and core strength would still have to pour tea for the old leader. This was the hidden social class. Many people were unwilling to admit it, but it really existed. It lasted for thousands of years and it would continue. Is Mr. Fang's work going well? Zhang Xiaofeng asked in a friendly voice. It's going well. Fang Yen said with a smile. I like my job as a teacher very much. You're a talent. I've been thinking about giving you more responsibilities. You're young, how can you not exercise more? However, Director Liu is very protective of you. She said that you just have to focus on the work at hand. Since she said that, how can I have any objections? This is also the principal's love for me. Fang Yen said, feeling even more puzzled. What does this old fox want from me? It's like this. Recently there have been more and more students' parents looking for me, and my phone is getting busier and busier. Among them, there are many important people that I had difficulty meeting in the past. I thought that the older I get, the more charming I become. Zhang Xiaofeng finally got to the point and said self-deprecatingly, Actually, they're looking for you. Looking for me? Fang Yen asked curiously. What a pitiful world of parents. Whether they're high-ranking officials or rich people, no matter what their parents' identities or how much wealth they have, in their hearts, their children's education is still the most important. They're looking for me for a common purpose, and that is to transfer their children to your class 9. Fang Yen didn't say anything, not because he was speechless, but because he was secretly happy. He felt that he had become a celebrity in Huaqing's education circle. In another 2 years he should be about the same age as his grandfather, right? It's obviously impossible to transfer all of them to class 9, Zhang Xiaofeng said. Those with money and power can be transferred, but those without money and power can't be transferred? We can't do that. Yes. Fang Yen nodded firmly. We can't do that. We have to be fair and just. If we plant the seeds of unfairness in the hearts of the students on this matter, when the students enter society in the future, this seed may also take root and germinate and bear the consequences. That's what I'm thinking. Zhang Xiaofeng said with a smile. So, I'm here to ask for your help. What can I do? Fang Yan asked. Have a big class, Zhang Xiaofeng said. Give all the first-year students a language class. Chapter 205. A big class for the entire first year? Fang Yan asked in surprise. He was no stranger to the big class model. Moreover, this kind of teaching method was very common in universities. Find a large lecture hall and gather the students of several classes of the same grade together for a unified teaching. Save the professor's time and manpower costs. However, Rosefinch was a high school, not a university. Fang Yan was very clear about what a big class in a university was like. Free, unorganized, and the sign-in rate was extremely high, but the actual number of people was very small. Very few students were studying seriously. University paid more attention to cultivating students' self-discipline and divergent thinking. For example, whether to wake up at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning, or whether to eat braised eggplant or casserole rice noodles for lunch, or whether to paste a note on the face of the two idiots from the next dormitory after winning landlord or to make them shout, XX I love you, at the opposite dormitory building. Most of the XX were not good-looking internet celebrities. If the big class model was started in high school in advance and the students were suddenly released from a high-pressure state, would they still be able to focus on studying seriously? Yes. Zhang Xiaofeng nodded seriously. First, your Fang's teaching method has already shown initial results in Class 9, and even Class 1 has been surpassed by you. If you want to promote it to the whole school, the big class model is a very good choice. Just treat it as an early test. Second, we can completely kill the idea of the students' parents frequently moving around and the students' unstable minds wanting to jump from other classes to Class 9. The big class model treats everyone equally. What's there to jump from? If I give a big class to the entire grade, what about the other language teachers in the first year's Chinese team? Fang Yan asked aloud. Obviously, this was a job that would offend people. If Fang Yan gave a big class to all the first-year students, how could the other language teachers endure it? They are still the language teachers of each class. You have 4 big classes a week, and the rest of the time the language teachers of each class will lead the students to study. There's not much change from before. It's like writing a novel. You make the outline of the story, and they lead the students to write according to the outline. I think the students might not be used to this kind of learning style. Mr. Fang, when you brought Class 9 students to the Bird River to learn poetry, all of us, with the exception of Chairman Lu Chaoga, felt that the students weren't used to that kind of learning method. Your actions were nonsense. However, it turns out that our horizons are still too shallow. You've succeeded. You've proven your worth. Zhang Xiaofeng, the old fox, was very persistent. Principal, our school doesn't have a classroom that can accommodate 400 to 500 people. Fang Yan said. There were 11 classes in the first grade, and if each class had 40 students, there would be at least 400 to 500 students. Although the Vermilion Bird High School was very wealthy, they had never thought of preparing a few lecture halls for the use of large classes. I've already thought about this question. We have a school auditorium that can accommodate more than 200 people. Divide the 11 classes of students into 2 halves and lead half of the students to each class. Principal, is this really appropriate? Fang Yan asked uncertainly. Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Fang Yan with a determined gaze and said, Teacher Fang Yan, what are you worried about? If I'm not worried, what are you worried about? Whether it's appropriate or not, won't you know after you try? I believe you can succeed. Moreover, if you succeed, you'll become the #1 person in the entire flower world. If the results aren't obvious, we can just cancel the classes. There won't be too much of a loss. Am I right? When are the classes scheduled? Fang Yan asked. Oh, I've already prepared them for you. The 4 classes are scheduled on Monday and Friday during the night self-study period. After all, we can't delay the regular classes in the day. Principal. Fang Yan's eyes widened. Wasn't this asking him to work overtime? You just said that Chairman Lu hopes that I just do my job well. I can't arrange too many tasks. Yes, that's what I said. However, Director Lu also told me to actively cooperate with you in promoting the Fang family's teaching method. You see, Director Lu is really biased towards you. She didn't call this teaching method the Rosefinch teaching method, but she gave all the credit to you. Teacher Fang Yan, shouldn't you do more work to repay Chairman Lu's love for you? Zhang Xiaofeng took a sip of tea and said with a smile, Mr. Fang, we'll give you a suitable tuition fee. Principal Zhang, I'm not a teacher for money. I simply like to be with students. The warm afternoon sun and the wind blew through the rows of thick white poplars. The branches and leaves swayed, and 1 or 2 leaves left their mother's body and danced in the air. They might be afraid, but they obtained freedom, the sky, and the ocean. The campus was filled with laughter. Students gathered in groups of 3 or 4 to chat. Some people were playing football on the field and some people were singing in the woods. This kind of time was quiet and beautiful, and it made people in high spirits. This kind of life will soon not belong to us. Jiang Qin sighed. There was regret and reluctance on his face. But we will have a more exciting life. Yuan Lin said. Everyone will leave. But we will leave early. Have you thought about it? We are number 26 middle school, and our studies are not the best in the school. To be frank, we don't like to study at all. Although I promised Mr. Fong that we will take the Rosefinch High School exam and enter his class. But can we really do it? How many middle schools are there in this city? How many students are there in these dozens of middle schools? How many students are better than us in school? Even if we pass the Rosefinch exam, so what? We will compete with more and better students. We will study Chinese, mathematics, history, English, and we will study courses we don't like and may not need at all. After graduating from high school, we will enter the university. What will we do after graduation? Have you thought about it? What are you going to do after graduation? Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin in surprise and said, Yuan Xiaolin, aren't you thinking too far away? It is very far away. There is 1 year left for the high school entrance exam, 3 years in high school, and 4 years in the university. There are at least 8 years to waste. If it was before, of course, we don't have to think about what will happen after 9 years. We can go to class, skip classes, go shopping, or sing songs as before. How good is it? But now, there is a great opportunity in front of us and we have to think about it. I like singing and so do you. We will learn vocal music to learn the zither, flute, yangqin. Do you remember? Last time when we walked to the entrance of the Fuhao building, you saw a yangqin teacher recruiting students. You said you want to learn but the fees are too high. If Xia Tian is willing to help, we will become the best talents in this field. Isn't that good? Why can't we seize this opportunity? Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin and said, I have always felt strange. Your family is so good, why do you want to be a star? Even if I can't read Rosefinch, you can find a way to get in. Even if I can't find a job after graduation, you don't have to worry about such a problem. Why do you want to be a star? Because I want to be a different person. Yuan Lin said with a smile. My father is a businessman and my mother is also a businessman. So, I want to be a different person from them. He was different from many other people in this world. When Americans mention Wuxia Kung Fu, they will think of Bruce Lee. When they mention the zither, they will think of Yuan Lin. Isn't this something to be proud of and worth sacrificing for? Jiang Qin laughed and said, It seems that you have made up your mind. I just don't know if you can convince your parents. Definitely, Yuan Lin said firmly. At this moment, someone shouted, Be careful. A football flew over and hit Jiang Qin's chest. Jiang Qin cried out in pain and retreated. He was almost knocked to the ground by the football. A boy quickly ran over and looked at Jiang Qin in panic. He said, Classmate, are you okay? Classmate, did I hurt you? Jiang Qin covered his chest and couldn't speak. Yuan Lin stood up for her friend and shouted, Hey, how do you play football? The goal is so big and you deliberately kicked it. Are you crazy? I'm sorry. The boy apologized desperately. I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean to. I'll take her to the infirmary. Yuan Lin looked at Jiang Qin and said, Do you want to go and have a look? Jiang Qin shook his head and said, No need. The boy was anxious and said, Classmate, you'd better go and have a look. What if she's hurt somewhere? I'll accompany you to have a look. No need. Jiang Qin glanced at the boy and said, Then I'll write down your phone number. Give me your number. I'll keep in touch with you at any time. If there's any problem, I'll come immediately. Is that okay? The boy looked at Jiang Qin with anticipation. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were extremely sensitive and looked up at the boy at the same time. The boy was very delicate with thin cheeks and long eyelashes. He was clean and gentle with the shyness that a student should have on his face. He wore a snow-white shirt, black pants, and a pair of white Converse canvas shoes on his feet. Seeing the two girls' scrutinizing eyes, the boy's face suddenly turned red. I just want, sorry? Jiang Qin interrupted him and said, There's really no need. The boy's face was gloomy. He nodded and said, I'm sorry. Before finishing his words, he turned and ran away quickly. Kailian from class 7, he likes you. Yuan Lin said. Jiang Qin looked up at the clouds in the sky and sighed softly in his heart. You're wearing the white shirt that I like, but I can only say sorry. Chapter 206. Ever since Zheng Guodong left Rosefinch, Fang Yan's life had been much better. Lu Chaoga's acquisition of Rosefinch Secondary was no secret among the school's higher-ups and teachers. The scandal between Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga was even more widely spread by busybodies. I saw it with my own eyes. The two of them kissed in the field. Come, come, come. I'll give you an idiom. A young teacher flirting with a female leader. What's the mystery? That's right, reaching the sky in a single bound. This kind of gigolo is really useless. I won't sell my body and personality. Teacher Zhao, do you have a body and personality to sell? I think Mr. Fang is very good. He's young, handsome, and knows Tai Chi. Look at what teacher Fang Yan has brought Class 9 to. His language scores have surpassed Class 1. Can an ordinary person do that? When Qin Dahai walked into the office, he heard his colleagues talking about Fang Yan's various scandals. He said this angrily. Team leader Qin. Teacher Zhao Mingliang of the first-year mathematics team looked at Qin Dahai with confusion. Didn't their team leader Qin hate Fang Yan? Even if he couldn't do anything to Fang Yan on the surface, it shouldn't be a problem to say a few bad things behind his back, right? Qin Dahai looked at Zhao Mingliang angrily and said, let's not talk about the fact that the scandal between Mr. Fang and Director Lu is groundless. Even if it's true. One of them is unmarried and the other is unmarried. Why can't they be in a relationship? They are teachers. It's not like they haven't reached the legal age yet. Yes, team leader Qin is right. Zhao Mingliang apologized again and again. Qin Dahai looked around the office and said, when teacher Fang Yan first came, I had some misunderstandings about him. That was because I saw that he was too young. I was worried that his ability wasn't enough and would delay the student's studies. Now Mr. Fang has proven his ability with his results. What else do we have to worry about? Therefore, I am very respectful towards teachers with genuine talent. I hope everyone can respect teacher Fang Yan. Yes, leader Qin. I also think that teacher Fang Yan is not bad. That's a talent. Who would have thought that Class 9 would be able to surpass Class 1? I can't believe it. Qin Dahai was satisfied when he saw that everyone had changed their attitude. He said, go back to your own business. I still have things to do. Qin Dahai walked to Li Mingxiang's office door, knocked on the door and asked, is Director Li here? Li Mingxiang opened the office door and smilingly said, old Qin, you still want to play this trick with me? If there was anything he could just push open the door and come in. Was there even a need to knock? Come, sit down and have some tea. Friendship is friendship. I can't let others think that I, Qin Dahai, have no respect, right? Qin Dahai said with a smile. I know Director Li has good tea here, so I came over for a cup of tea. After making a cup of tea for Qin Dahai, Li Mingxiang said with a smile, old Qin, if there's anything just say it. How many years have we known each other? Qin Dahai sighed and said, old Li, to tell you the truth. Recently I've been feeling uneasy in my heart. What made you feel uneasy? Li Mingxiang asked. You also know that when Director Zheng was here we were close to him. We followed his lead in many things. It was precisely because of this that I and teacher Fang Yan didn't get along very well. The two of us quarreled a lot. Now that Director Zheng is gone, Lu Chaoga bought the school. I also heard that Fang Yan and Director Lu have a close relationship. My heart began to feel uneasy. You say I treated him like that and tried to drive him away several times. How could Fang Yan not bear a grudge against me? I don't think Mr. Fang is the kind of person who holds a grudge. Li Mingxiang said with a smile. Don't judge Mr. Fang by his age, but his heart is not small. He's a young man that I've rarely seen in my life. He's a hero among men. Qin Dahai smiled bitterly in his heart. When he had a conflict with Fang Yan, you said that this kid was too young and impetuous to become a great person. Now he's a hero among men with a big heart? Director Li, I want to ask you for a favor. Qin Dahai said the purpose of this trip. Old Qin, what can I help with? Don't hesitate to ask. Li Ziqiang said straightforwardly. I want to invite Mr. Fang for a meal. Can Director Li help mediate in the middle? Qin Dahai said with a smile. If I invite him he definitely won't give me face. But if Director Li invites him the effect will be different. Li Mingxiang thought about it and said, okay. I'll call Mr. Fang. I can't guarantee whether it will work or not. Thank you, Director Li, Qin Dahai said gratefully. It's good to be an old friend. He can help you at the critical moment. Why do you say this? Li Mingxiang pointed to the door and said, Deputy Director Zhu Jian seems to be in the office. Do you have nothing to do and talk to him? Qin Dahai understood and said, okay. Then I'll go talk to Director Zhu. I won't bother Director Li, Li Mingqiang waved and said, "I'll call you when I get the confirmation." After sending Qin Dahai away, Li Mingqiang secretly thought that there must be many teachers like Qin Dahai. Although Fang Yan was just a language teacher in the entire Rosefinch Secondary, when it came to power and influence he was probably ranked first or second. Who asked him to be the spokesperson of Director Liu? Fortunately, I turned the rudder fast. Li Mingqiang thought with great satisfaction. Li Mingqiang called to invite him for a meal. Fang Yan hesitated a little and then agreed. Li Mingqiang was the first batch of the school's top management to lean towards Lu Chaoga. Now that Lu Chaoga had left, Fang Yan became Lu Chaoga's spokesperson in the school. There were many things that needed Li Mingqiang and the others to do. Besides, Li Mingqiang had been trying hard to get close to him. If he didn't respond at all, it would make Li Mingqiang's heart turn cold, and others who wanted to get close to him would stop. During the call, Li Mingqiang vaguely mentioned that he would bring Qin Dahai to the dinner. Fang Yan immediately understood the meaning of this treat. This was not Li Mingqiang's treat, but Qin Dahai wanted to apologize to him. There was no class in the afternoon, so Fang Yan, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan told them to go to the school cafeteria to eat by themselves. After that, he changed his clothes and walked towards the school gate. Baldy was on duty. When he saw Fang Yan greeting him warmly, he shouted, "Mr. Fang, are you going out?" Fang Yan waved his hand. "I haven't seen any girls coming to school to see you in the past 2 days." Baldy said fawningly. "If there were, I would let them in." As soon as he stepped out of the school gate, he saw Zhang Chen walking towards the school. When Zhang Chen saw Fang Yan, he quickly greeted him and asked with a smile, "Master, are you going out?" "There's a dinner party." Fang Yan said. "Zhang Chen, how many times have I said that we are of the same generation? Where are you going?" "I just finished class and I want to cook for Master." Zhang Chen smiled honestly and said, "If Master is not at home, then I will go to make a bowl of noodles with gravy for heroes and warriors. They like to eat this." Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "Then go." Fang Yan stood on the side of the road and was about to stop a taxi to leave. A black Mercedes-Benz rushed towards where he was standing. Fang Yan quickly jumped away, and the Mercedes-Benz rushed towards Zhang Chen behind him. Zhang Chen also quickly dodged to the side, and the Mercedes-Benz suddenly braked and stopped. Clang! The door opened and a young man with a crew cut pushed the door open and got out of the car. There was a cigarette in his hand. After taking a puff, he looked at Zhang Chen with a smile and scolded, "Zhang Chen, you are not dead yet? Chongping, what are you doing?" Zhang Chen stared at the crew cut with a malicious face and asked, "What am I doing?" The crew cut stared at Zhang Chen viciously and scolded, "I came to ask you what you want. Why did you contact my wife for no reason? What? Do you want to rekindle your old love? Or do you think that since you have nothing to do, you might as well come out and have sex?" "Chongping, don't slander me." Zhang Chen shouted angrily. "I slander you?" The crew cut was also angry. He took out a stack of paper from his pocket and threw it over. He said angrily, "I even found out your call records. Do you dare to say that the number ending with 7878 is not yours, you bastard?" "We are not what you think." Zhang Chen's momentum was reduced. "Not what I think." The crew cut sneered. He turned around and ran to the side of the car, opened the back door and dragged out a woman from inside. He said, "So what if it is not what I think? This bitch has admitted that she is in contact with you. Do you still want to deny it? Zhang Chen, you dare to make me a cuckold. Do you believe that I will kill you?" The woman was tall and sweet, but her eyes were purple and red, and there were many bruises on her face. Obviously, after her and Zhang Chen's call records were found, the husband and wife should have had some fierce physical conflict. "Chongping, I told you that this matter has nothing to do with Zhang Chen. We were just chatting, nothing happened." The woman explained with red eyes. Slap. Chongping slapped the woman's face and scolded angrily, "You stinking bitch, even now you are still speaking for him. Do you dare to say that there is no adultery between you two? Do you believe that I will beat you to death here?" Zhang Chen rushed toward Chongping and shouted, "Chongping, if you have anything to say, come at me. What's the big deal about bullying a woman?" Chongping looked Zhang Chen up and down and said with a smile, "Come at you? Oh, I almost forgot. You are Hua City's MMA champion, my master back then. How can I attack my master?" Fang Yan looked at Chongping and said, "We are not relatives or friends, this is purely the first time we have met. You came to attack me." Chongping glanced at Fang Yan and scolded, "Where did you come from, idiot? Do you have the right to speak here? You want to stand up for your master? You don't have such a deep cultivation. Get lost. Go back to where you came from. Fang Yan's body moved, and he appeared in front of Changping. He grabbed him by the neck and slammed him against the hood of the Mercedes-Benz. Clang! There was a muffled sound and a huge hole was smashed into the hood of the Mercedes-Benz. Chapter 207. Caught off guard, Changping was grabbed by Fang Yan, and his head was slammed against the Mercedes-Benz, making him dizzy. He mistakenly thought that Fang Yan was Zhang Chen's disciple, and that he had attacked him to please Zhang Chen. His heart burned with anger and he roared angrily, "You bastard, how dare you hit me?" He had also learned mixed martial arts for a few years and he felt that his skills were good. He twisted his body trying to turn around and fight back. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, his neck was still in Fang Yan's hands. Fang Yan's grip was not tight, but it was like a magnet firmly sucking his neck, making it impossible for him to break free. Fang Yan did not let go of his neck, and after hearing his curses, he pressed his head down again and slammed it against the hood of the Mercedes-Benz. Clang! I've already remembered you, I'll remember your face. Do you know who I am? I'll kill you. I'll kill your whole family. Clang! You bastard, let me go if you dare, I'll fight you one-on-one, I want to fight you one-on-one. Clang, clang, clang. After 6 or 7 consecutive hits, Fang Yan finally let go. Changping's body collapsed softly on the car, his forehead dripping with blood, looking like a bloody mess. The hard hood of the Mercedes-Benz was dented, showing how fierce and heavy the impact just now was. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked speechless. This handsome and gentle man, how could he be so crazy and violent? Fang Yan stared coldly at Changping and said, "I don't know who you are and I don't care who you are. What I want to tell you is that this is the school gate and it's school time. You're a hooligan driving a broken Mercedes-Benz and driving around. If you hit any student, 100 people like you who can't even take care of themselves will not be enough to pay for it." Fang Yan was really angry. He didn't care what grudge this crew cut had with Zhang Chen, nor did he care if Zhang Chen had made Changping a cuckold. If you want to reason with him, then do it properly. If you really want to, then arrange a place to beat up Zhang Chen. But why did you hit me with your car? I didn't offend anyone. I was just waiting for a taxi by the roadside. Why did you hit me with your car? Although it had been a while since school ended, and it was not the peak time for students to leave school, there were still students coming out of the school in 2s and 3s and standing by the roadside waiting for the bus. Not far from Zhang Chen, there were 2 female students standing there holding hands and laughing. They were also pointing at Fang Yan. They might be teacher Fang Yan's female fans. What if Changping didn't brake in time or lost control of the car and hit the students? Slow down for the school section. This was common sense that all drivers understood. Even if he didn't understand, there were obvious signs hanging on the roadside. But just how fast had Changping been rushing over just now? Because of your mistakes, other families have to suffer because of it. What? Men like to show off, but if the occasion was not right, they would become fools. Men like to show off, but if the target was not right, it would become cruel. Changping was undoubtedly a fool who failed to show off, so he had to accept a cruel blow. You ask me if I know who you are? Why should I know where you came from, you little tramp? Do you think you are Lu Dehua and everyone in the world knows you? Do you know who I am? I am a teacher, one of the best language teachers in Rosefinch Secondary. If you had killed me just now, do you know what kind of loss it would have brought to Rosefinch? What kind of loss would it have brought to the whole of Wuxia? Changping struggled to open his eyes and asked, "What kind of loss?" Fang Yan kicked his knee and scolded, "What do you mean? Are you looking down on me? I hate idiots who think they are the best in the world just because they have a little money." Fang Yan said with a face full of contempt, "I have billions in my bank account. Do you think I will tell everyone I meet?" After saying this, Fang Yan suddenly felt a burst of comfort in his heart. It turned out that having a lot of money in the card but not being able to tell others was really hard to bear. Wasn't it the cruelest thing in the world to wear luxurious clothes and walk at night? Who are you? I am Fang Yan. The square and square, the yen and the descendants of Yen and Huang. The descendants of Yen and Huang should be upright. Don't think about retaliating against me. If I can't fight you alone, I will beat you up. Fang Yan stared at Changping vigilantly and said threateningly, "If you dare to find a group to beat me up even once, I will fight you alone once a day." Fang Yan glanced at Zhang Chen and said, "I'm sorry to have delayed your time. I'm done with my business. It's your turn." After that, he turned around and walked toward the bus stop not far away. It was the time for taxis to change shifts, so it was not easy to stop a taxi. Chang Ping spat out a mouthful of saliva as he watched Fang Yan leave. You still have the face to say that you have billions in your bank account, master? Zhang Qin chased after him and wanted to explain. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, take care of your own business. Several girls chased after him and shouted sweetly, Mr. Fang, can you give me an autograph? I am just an ordinary language teacher. Don't treat me like a star. Where do you want to sign? When Fang Yan pushed the door open and walked into the box, Li Mingqiang, Zhu Jian, and Qin Dahai had been waiting for a long time. Among the people present, Fang Yan's rank was the lowest. However, Lu Chaoga bluntly said that Fang Yan was her spokesperson in the school when she left. Even Principal Zhang Xiaofeng had to give him face. Therefore, Fang Yan became the most powerful person in the school. There was also a person who should not have appeared here, which made Fang Yan's heart have an irrepressible anger. When Qin Tao saw Fang Yan come in, he hurriedly greeted him and respectfully shouted, Mr. Fang, you are here. Fang Yan patted Qin Tao's shoulder and took him into the room. After Li Mingqiang and Fang Yan shook hands, he said with a smile, Mr. Fang is here. Can we start the banquet? Start the banquet. Start the banquet. Qin Dahai said with a smile. The important guests are all here. Naturally we should start the banquet. Aren't we here to eat? Qin Dahai's level of speech was very high. The sentence, the important guests are all here, highlighted the prominent position of Fang Yan. He said that he was an important guest, but he would not ignore the feelings of Li Mingqiang and Zhu Jian. He was quite a smooth person. Li Mingqiang, Zhu Jian, and Qin Dahai pushed Fang Yan to sit at the head of the table. Fang Yan did not respond. He said that Li Mingqiang was the leader and according to age he was the big brother of everyone present, so he pushed him up. The wine was good and the dishes were also good. Qin Dahai shouted at his son and shouted, Qin Tao, you don't need to sit at the table. Stand behind Mr. Fang and pour wine for Mr. Fang. You are Mr. Fang's student. This matter has to be done by you. Qin Tao quickly stood up and ran behind Fang Yan. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, sit down and eat. There are too many etiquettes and eating is tiring. Mr. Fang, this is the old rule. What is the saying again? A teacher for a day is a father for life. A teacher is a father. Qin Tao is your student and also your son. Isn't it natural for a son to pour a glass of wine for his father? Qin Dahai insisted. Fang Yan did not insist. Li Mingqiang took the lead to raise his glass and said, come, it's rare for us to get together. Let's have a drink today. Fang Yan raised his glass and clinked glasses with them, and then lowered his head to eat. Li Mingqiang winked at Qin Dahai. Qin Dahai nodded and quickly walked to Fang Yan with his glass and said with a smile, Mr. Fang, when you first came to Rosefinch I didn't know you very well, so there were a lot of misunderstandings and conflicts between us. Of course this is mainly my fault. Blame me, blame me. This glass of wine is for you. I hope you can be magnanimous and forget all the things in the past. Is that okay? After Qin Dahai finished, he raised his neck and drank all the white wine in the glass. Fang Yan lowered his head to eat, as if he didn't hear Qin Dahai's words and didn't see Qin Dahai's toast. Qin Dahai's face suddenly turned purple. Fang Yan didn't give him face. He knew that today he must untie the knot in Fang Yan's heart. The longer it dragged, the worse it would be. So, he poured himself another glass of white wine and said aloud again, Mr. Fang, I know you have grievances and resentment in your heart. This is a matter of course. From now on you can watch my performance. After that, Qin Dahai raised his head again and drank the glass of white wine in his neck. Fang Yan's chopsticks in his hand stopped. He looked up at Qin Dahai and didn't say anything. Qin Dahai let Qin Tao fill the glass in his hand and said with a smile, Mr. Fang, I toast you again. Qin Tao was anxious. He ran in front of Fang Yan and cried, Mr. Fang, my dad knows he's wrong. He knows he's wrong, please forgive him this time. Mr. Fang, I beg you. My dad can't hold his liquor well, he really can't drink anymore. Plop. Qin Tao knelt in front of Fang Yan and pleaded with tears on his face. Li Mingqiang also persuaded and said, yes, old Qin was confused for a moment. So he did something wrong. Mr. Fang, can you forgive him this time? Didn't old Qin say it? Let's see his performance in the future, okay? Zhu Jian opened his mouth but in the end he didn't say anything. He and Fang Yan hadn't been in contact for a long time, but he knew that this person was terribly stubborn. Once he decided on something, even 9 bulls couldn't pull him back. Fang Yan expressionlessly glanced at the crowd, and finally his eyes stopped on Qin Dahai's face. He said firmly, I won't forgive. Chapter 208. Everyone looked at Fang Yan in astonishment. They didn't understand why he hated Qin Dahai so much. He didn't want to give up so easily. I know it must be difficult for you to understand my thoughts, Fang Yan said, looking at Li Mingqiang and Zhu Jian. Director Qin was the mediator and Zhu Jian was the support. Qin Dahai's attitude was sincere, and he drank a few glasses of white wine to apologize. Moreover, he didn't give face to his father in front of a student. It must have left a deep shadow in his heart. He must have a deep grudge against me. According to normal people's thinking, I should look at the big picture and make the big things small. I should let go of the past and pretend that nothing happened. Then we can eat and drink together. It's a perfect meeting. Even if it's just a superficial disguise, I should still do it. But I can't forgive you, Fang Yan said. To be honest, when I first came to Rosefinch, not only did I have conflicts with Teacher Qin, but I also had conflicts with Director Li. Li Mingqiang looked embarrassed and said, yes, at that time we didn't know each other very well, so Li Mingqiang secretly regretted it. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have agreed to let Qin Dahai get involved in this matter. Although he was now on Lu Chaoga's side, he had, after all, offended Fang Yan. The other party wasn't a guy who liked to play by the rules. Breaking the thin layer of protection in front of everyone was undoubtedly a hard slap in his face. Fang Yan waved his hand, indicating that Li Mingqiang didn't need to explain. He said, Director Li and I should belong to the faction struggle. Director Li is Director Zheng's man, and I am Director Lu's man. Director Zheng's son has a problem with me, and Director Zheng also has a problem with me. I can completely understand you trying to kick me out of the school. Teacher Qin also tried to kick me out of the school. I can also accept this. You don't like someone and you want to see what the eye doesn't see. I don't find it strange at all. Because I didn't like you at that time, and I also hoped that you would suddenly make a mistake and get fired. Director Li wants to kick me out and so does Professor Qin. However, I have forgiven Director Li Mingqiang. Why am I not willing to forgive Teacher Qin? Fang Yan looked at Qin Dahai and said, because I think your methods are too dirty. Teacher Qin, do you still remember what happened at the Sparrow Bridge that night? Qin Tao, Li Yang, and Zheng Guodong made a female student pretend that she was being bullied, and then lured me into taking the bait. To be honest, this matter is too dark. Even now, when I think about it, I still feel a chill in my heart and soul, and it's hard to quell my anger. Qin Dahai's lips trembled, but no words came out. Fang Yan was too smart. Extra explanations would only make people feel more disgusted. What kind of hatred do we have between us? Why would you set me up like this? If I wasn't me, if it were any other teacher, if I were Zhu Jian? Hearing Fang Yan mention the past, Zhu Jian's expression was also extremely ugly. How could he not be angry? How could he not hate them? No one knew better than him what kind of consequences it was, and no one understood better than him what kind of feeling it was. Anger, hatred, destruction, despair, and having nothing left. If Fang Yan wasn't Fang Yan, if Fang Yan had been successfully set up like him, then, at this moment, would Fang Yan still be sitting here eating and chatting with him? Because he had experienced that kind of thing, because he had suffered the consequences of that matter, because those few years were worse than death, because his family was broken up, Zhu Jian's heart was filled with hatred. He hated Zheng Guodong, Li Yang, and Qin Tao. He hated Qin Dahai, Li Mingqiang, and Zheng Tiancheng. He hated all the B***stars who participated in this matter and ruined his reputation. However, he knew that his ability was limited and his strength was weak. Even if he had hatred, he could only suppress it in the bottom of his heart. Because he still had to work, because he still had to eat. He drank and chatted with them and he called them brothers. He told himself that a man should be flexible, and everything was for the sake of survival. However, Fang Yan chose a more extreme and direct way to deal with it. He didn't feel wronged, he didn't pretend to be polite, and he would never forgive. Mr. Fang, this matter was done by us, and it has nothing to do with my father. Qin Tao explained aloud. Qin Tao, you don't have to explain, Fang Yan interrupted Qin Tao's words and said, there are some things that everyone knows. It doesn't make sense for you to want to put all the blame on yourself. Teacher is not as stupid as you think. Have you thought about it? If you had succeeded in that incident, what would have happened to me? My reputation would be ruined and I would have nothing left. No matter where I went, I would be ridiculed and pointed at my back. This approach was tantamount to completely destroying a person's life. There would be no more hope. Zheng Guodong got the punishment he deserved. Qin Tao and Li Yang performed well later, and the most important thing is that you are just an immature child. I am very angry that you did this kind of thing, but I am willing to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. Teacher Qin, you have decades of work experience and you are mature and quick-witted. You plan this kind of thing behind the scenes. Have you thought about the nature of this? Qin Dahai's face was ashen, and the hand holding the wine glass was trembling. The wine kept spilling out, and his mood at this time was extremely unstable. Fang Yan's voice was like a pair of scissors, a sharp sword, cutting open wounds on his skin and flesh, and then he used a sharp arrow to cut open his flesh from those wounds, peeling off the whole skin from the body. He was like a skinned clown, standing naked and dripping with blood in front of Fang Yan, standing in front of everyone. Teacher Qin, at that time you were more powerful. You had connections and backing, so when you made your move, you were unscrupulous and did everything you could. Yes, now that I have some advantage, you are worried that I will retaliate, so you invited me to dinner and you apologized to me. If you once again have the upper hand, or if I accept your apology, I will become another Jing Tianqing standing behind you. If there are other teachers who have offended you, what kind of method will you use to deal with them? That kind of evil thing or something even dirtier than that will happen again? Teacher Qin, tell me, should I forgive you? Fang Yan dragged Qin Tao up from the ground and said, in the future, don't involve children in adult matters. The muscles on Li Mingxiang's face twitched again. At that time when Qin Dahai wanted to bring Qin Tao out, he felt that it was somewhat inappropriate. What's the use of letting children get involved in adult matters? But Qin Dahai said that Qin Tao was Fang Yan's student, and letting him follow to serve tea and toast was what he should do. Li Mingxiang thought that if Fang Yan valued friendship, seeing that Qin Tao was his student, he would have a better impression of Qin Dahai. Unexpectedly, it backfired. Not only did Fang Yan not see the face of Qin Tao being Qin Dahai's son, but he was even more displeased with Qin Dahai for playing his own son card. Qin Dahai, why are you so unlucky? Fang Yan walked in front, and Qin Tao followed behind Fang Yan with his head down. The teacher and the teacher slowly walked in the direction of the school. Do you hate me? Fang Yan asked. No. Qin Tao said. Do you hate your father? Don't hate him either. Fang Yan said, because he is your father. Mr. Fang, I don't know if I should hate him or not. I understand the reason you said, and I can understand the words you said. I know what you said is right. I am angry at my father and angry at myself. But I don't know what to do. When he begged you for your forgiveness, I felt that my father was very pitiful. This world is like this. We pay attention to the law of the jungle, and we also pay attention to karma. The strong eat the weak, and what you sow will reap what you sow. The reason why your father is pitiful is that he was too unscrupulous before. Everyone should be punished for doing something wrong. If I forgive him this time, then he feels that the cost of the crime is nothing. At most, he will apologize again and be forgiven again. What kind of path will he eventually take? What about those who were framed by him? I can't forgive him, and I don't dare to forgive him. Because I am worried that I will be hurt by such a person again, and I am also worried that another me will be framed by such a person. Fang Yan stopped and turned to look at Qin Tao, saying, You are my student. So there is a sentence I want to give you. I don't ask you to be a righteous and brave person, but at least, please be a sunny and kind person. I don't believe in God, but I believe that if you do too many bad things, you will meet someone who can fix you. Qin Tao nodded seriously and said, Mr. Fang, I understand. I know I was wrong. I will not let you down in the future. Fang Yan patted Qin Tao's shoulder and said, Also, don't easily kneel in the future. Kneel to the sky, kneel to the earth, kneel to your parents, kneel to your teacher. Teacher, this is not shameful, Qin Tao said. Fang Yan's expression was stunned and he said, This flattery really hit my heart. Good job, keep it up. The master and disciple looked at each other and laughed. When Fang Yan opened the door and entered the house, he found that there were guests in the house. Zhang Qin and the woman were sitting on the sofa in the living room, waiting. Seeing Fang Yan come back, the two quickly stood up to greet him, their faces full of uneasiness. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.